What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto Exiled Konoha goes to war? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. Naruto is banished from Konoha and hasn't been seen since. Sasuke took over Oto after Orochimaru. Sakura took over Konoha after Tsunade. The Akatsuki have made their own village. Gaara still has Suna. What's the result? The dawn of a new ninja war. Now, please read the bottom after this chapter. The dawn of a new war. A blonde-haired teenager walked out of the gates of the prosperous Konoha village hidden in the leaf. He glanced back at the citizens. They all smirked, except for a select few. Naruto spat on the ground as he saw the Rokudame Hokage, Haruno Sakura, before him. "What do you want, Sakura?" Naruto asked, angrily. "Uzumaki Naruto, if you ever show your face here again, you shall be treated as a missing nin of Konoha," Sakura returned the angry voice. "You are sentenced for damaging part of Konoha fighting the Oto nin, Uchiha Sasuke. And for damaging the Hokage monument. Uzumaki Naruto, you are hereby banished." "I know the real reason you banished me, Sakura," Naruto replied. "Your precious Sasuke-kun got hurt during our battles." Naruto shoved past her and kept walking, thinking back to his fight. 2 weeks ago, Konohakagore. Naruto and Sasuke ran through the village, letting their jutsus go. Sasuke let a couple fireballs fly with a wordless jutsu, which Naruto countered with a couple water balls. "Naruto," Sasuke shouted, "I will beat you." Sasuke's Sharingans flared as they reached the foot of the Hokage monument. "I don't care about you, Sasuke." Naruto shouted back, "I'll defeat you." Sasuke jumped at him, trying to punch Naruto, but was blocked and kicked, sending him higher into the air. Naruto jumped up after him, making more hand seals. "You won't win," Sasuke shouted, going for a drop kick. Naruto skid on the rock wall, narrowly dodging, and kicked Sasuke's chin. "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," Naruto shouted. 2 copies of Naruto appeared behind Sasuke. They grabbed his arms and hurled him down. Naruto ran along the rock wall and punched Sasuke in the stomach. He followed it up with another punch and then a roundhouse kick to the face. Sasuke was hurled up farther and Naruto jumped up. "God damn you, Naruto," Sasuke shouted, making hand seals. He let a giant fireball fly at him. Naruto held his hand ready with the Rasengan going. He punched the fireball and it began to swirl with fire and wind. "Kaden. Rasengan," Naruto shouted, pushing his fist forward. "Chidori," Sasuke shouted back, his cursed seal instantly acting up. The markings went into the Chidori, causing it the blue electricity to turn black. The 2 jutsus clashed and an explosion occurred. Sasuke and Naruto slid past each other and then continued their jump for the top of the monument. Sasuke's hair grew longer and changed to a purplish color as his eyes went black with yellow pupils. A black mark came over his face and his nails grew. He had grown 2 wings that were shaped like a pair of hands. Naruto was now spewing his red chakra. His face had took on more animalistic features. His eyes had turned into red slits of a fox and his whisker marks became more pronounced. His nails had grown into claws and his teeth into fangs. He was becoming more like a fox as he ran up the wall on all 4. Sasuke flew through more hand seals as he literally flew from the wings that were created. He finished his seals and began to swirl with a new black tornado appearing. He flew at Naruto, but Naruto just jumped over it and continued running up the cliffside. He jumped and turned back to face Sasuke, making his own hand seals. "Odama Rasengan," Naruto shouted in a more animalistic voice. He thrust out his hand and the wind shot out of it, towards Sasuke. Sasuke pivoted to the side and the attack crashed into a couple of houses. Sasuke flew past Naruto and landed on top of the Yondaime's head. He looked down at Naruto with a smirk on his face as he held out his hand. "Kage Chidori," Sasuke shouted, thrusting his hand forward. The black electricity shot forward as it began to speed down the side of the cliff. Naruto's Rasengan was already ready once again as he thrust that at the attack. "Raiden. Odama Kage Rasengan," Naruto shouted, sending the whole blast hurling back at Sasuke. Sasuke smirked more as he dodged it. He looked back down at Naruto who was still running up. That attack had caused a giant gash into the Yondaime's face. Naruto reached the tip of the Yondaime's hair and launched himself at Sasuke. Sasuke grabbed his wrist and threw him back. Naruto landed on all four and began running at Sasuke again. Sasuke made more hand seals. Raiden! Habi Chidori! Sasuke shouted. The Chidori shot out of his hand and began to make its way over to Naruto like a snake. It snaked its way around to pass Naruto and then go back and tie itself around him. Naruto howled in pain, but suddenly broke free and began rushing at Sasuke again. The Habi Chidori shot back at him and smashed into his back, but Naruto used this as momentum as his Rasengan began to show again. Kitsune Kaiden! Udama Rasengan! Naruto shouted. The swirling ball of air shot forth with the Kyuubi's chakra powering it and thrust Sasuke out of the way. The tops of the Yondaime, Sandaime, and the first two Hokage's heads had a crater going along it from the attack. Sasuke stood at the end of the monument, looking pretty beaten. His hands began to charge with the Chidori while Naruto's hands began to form the Rasengan. The two launched at each other and met at the crevice between the third's and the second's head. The two shinobi let their jutsus go as two of Sasuke's Chidoris combined and two of Naruto's Rasengans combined. Kitsune Rasengan! Naruto shouted as an aura of a fox seemed to show for a second. Habi Chidori! Sasuke shouted as an aura of a snake seemed to show for a second, fighting against the fox. There was a bright flash before everything was still. Naruto and Sasuke stood there, fists against each other's fists. Sasuke! Teme! Naruto panted. Dobi! Sasuke panted back as the two fell to their knees. Jiraiya poofed into existence next to Naruto while Kabuto poofed in next to Sasuke. Seems the two are done. Jiraiya glared at Kabuto. Seems so. Kabuto just smirked in response to the glare. So, the Raikage is dead. Ah, what about your Hokage-sama? Kabuto's smirk grew wider as he looked at Tsunade, fighting Orochimaru. Tsunade and Orochimaru were fighting ferociously, until Orochimaru impaled Tsunade with his sword, Kusanagi. Tsunade, with her last strength, did a bone-shattering haymaker with her monstrous strength, crushing Orochimaru's skull. Tsunade! Jiraiya shouted. He grabbed Naruto and took off. Kabuto picked up Sasuke by the collar and started walking away. I guess the boy will continue my master's ambitions, Kabuto muttered, looking back at Orochimaru's body before poofing away. Present time. Naruto walked forward a bit more before turning back. Sakura just glared at him. Keep going, she ordered. Naruto shrugged and disappeared from sight. 3 years later, the prosperous village of Konohakagure had begun rebuilding. Otokage had done so too. The 6th Hokage, Haruno Sakura, and the 2nd Otokage, Uchiha Sasuke, decided on an alliance. Sanokage broke their alliance with Konoha, the Case-Cage, Sabaku no Gara. Enraged at having his allies ally with their enemy, Oto. Meanwhile, Kumokagure became prosperous once again. The Sandaime Raikage had fallen to Jiraiya's hands and a missing nin had gone out of his way to rebuild Kumo along with Jiraiya. After that, they had asked him to become the Yondaime Raikage. The last of the legendary Sannin, Jiraiya, had defected from Konoha to Kumo. They didn't know what caused this, but even Gaara took a liking to the village and formed an alliance with them. Oto and Konoha were worried of the imposing threat and began to fortify their defenses. Kumo and Suna began working on retreat villages. They would need backup plans if the hidden village fell. In the northern part of the country, the village hidden in the snow fell. A mysterious organization had went in and defeated the entire army. Though it was small from much turmoil, the organization defeated it with 2 members, making it a feat to marvel at. These 3 forces, Suna, Kumo, Konoha, Oto, and Snow all faced each other now. This was the dawn of a new war. Friends reunited. The Yondaime Raikage sat atop the newly formed monument. It was his giant figure in the cliffside that faced Kumokagure. He watched as his people walked amongst the village. He had finally rebuilt Kumokagure to its former glory after 3 years. The Sandaime had completely wrecked the place. It was now prosperous once again. Raikage-sama, a member of the newly formed Bolt, poofed into existence. Bolt had been named as the Kumo version of Anbu. Yes, Shinto? The Raikage asked. Jiraiya-sama wishes to speak with you, Shinto replied. He says it involves alliances for the upcoming battles. He already knows I'm going to go against Konoha and Otto, huh? Naruto smirked. Should have thought I couldn't get it past him. The Raikage rose to his feet, his robe blowing at his feet. He had changed it a bit. Normally, it would have been a dark yellow, but the Yondaime changed that to a dark orange. His Raikage hat hid his blonde hair from view at the moment, but Shinto could see his whisker marks. A little darker than they had been several years ago. Oh, and there are 3 men that have come to Kumokagore, Shinto continued. They're Konoha nin. Should I send our special force to deal with them? We've identified them as Konoha's strategist, one of Konoha's front-line generals, and the head of the Hyuga. Oh? Naruto smirked. I think I know who they are. But this is a strange bunch to send to attack us. I'm sending you. Get Jin and Kagai. Go find them and confront them. Don't kill them. Just hold them until I return from meeting Jiraiya. Naruto then jumped back and disappeared with blinding speed. Elsewhere in Kumo, a man was laying down with a straw hat over his eyes on a rooftop. He wore black jeans and a black long-sleeved shirt. Next to the man, a woman was against the wall, twirling a kunai. She wore a crimson pair of jeans and a crimson short-sleeved shirt to match. The two sat there peacefully until a poof got them up. Raikage-sama wants us to go check on something, Shinto said as the smoke cleared. Follow me. He jumped back to another building's rooftop. What is it we're doing, Jin-kun? The woman asked. I told you, Kagai, Jin replied, don't use kun around me. Kagai seemed to pout for a second, but then backflipped to the next rooftop with a wide grin. Fine, Jin-kun, Kagai shouted as she continued to follow Shinto. Jin sighed and followed too. The 3 ran across the rooftops until they spotted the distinct chakra sources. Konoha nin? Jin asked. They were spotted earlier, Shinto replied. We're to simply subdue them and keep them there for Raikage-sama to meet them. They stopped at the rooftop beside where the Konoha nin were. One was a man with a pineapple-like hairstyle and wearing the Junin vest of Konoha. His Hite 8 wasn't seen on his figure. He wore a fishnet shirt under the Junin vest and black pants with that. He had a very lazy look in his eyes. The second man was a fatter one. He had a suit of armor more suited for a samurai than a ninja. A spear was strapped to his back and a hairdress had red hair going down his back. His Hite 8 was nowhere in sight. The woman was a blue-haired girl. She had brilliant white eyes and wore a black hoodie. She had a black pair of pants on too. Her Hite 8 was gone as well. She was also the first to notice that they were there. The 3 poof away in a puff of smoke and appeared in front of the 3 Konoha nin. Battle strategist, Nara Shikamaru, Shinto acknowledged. Front line commander, Akamichi Choji. Hyuga head, Hyuga Hinata. Konoha is at war with Kumo. Trespassers must be dealt with. We're just passing through, Shikamaru began, but was cut off as he jumped back from a kick from Shinto. Shinto followed it up by charging at him. Kagai ran at Hinata and tried a sweep kick that was jumped over by the Hyuga head. Jin went for a punch to Choji and was blocked by the large boy. Shinto vs Shikamaru. Shinto threw several punches at Shikamaru, but all were dodged. Suddenly, Shikamaru went into a hand seal which made Shinto go into a hand seal on instinct. Cage main, Shikamaru smirked as Shinto stopped moving and Shikamaru's shadow attached to him. Cage Kai, Shinto smirked as the shadow broke apart and Shikamaru was met with a hard punch by Shinto. You broke it? Shikamaru asked in shock. Raikage-sama teaches us a lot, Shinto smirked as he ran through more hand seals. Like this. Raiden. Raiko Shippuu no Jutsu. A giant wind picked up as lightning began to flash from all around. All the lightning struck around them as they seemed to go into a world all their own. Raiko no Jutsu. A rod was shot out of the ground next to Shikamaru and the lightning all seemed to focus there. Shikamaru looked in shock as all the lightning came down on him. Tate no Cage, Shikamaru shouted as his shadow wrapped around his whole body. Akarui Ranpu no Jutsu, Shinto shouted in response. There was a bright flash before the shadow was gone. The light was too bright to leave a shadow here. Now. Raiden. Raikoue no Jutsu. The lightning wrapped around Shikamaru quickly and held him there as they seemed to return from their own world and the lightning storm ended. You. Shikamaru muttered. Now, sit tight until Raikage-sama gets here. Shinto replied, looking on to the other fights. Jin vs Choji. Jin continued to throw punches, but Choji blocked each of them. He suddenly threw a kick at Choji, nailing him in the head. From there, he slid down and kicked him in the chin. The fatter boy flew into the air and Jin made a hand seal. Raiko Senpu, Jin muttered as he began to twirl. His body surged with lightning and he shot into the air. He struck Choji in the back before appearing in front of him. Raiko Kyer. He brought his hand down in a karate chop as lightning surged from it. It hit dead on in the stomach, but he didn't finish there. Hijutsu. Raiko Katadzu Degeki. His whole body surged with lightning and he began a series of punches and kicks. He ended as he began to swirl around and rammed him towards the ground. Choji just lay there motionlessly as Jin sat down cross-legged and placed his hands on the ground. Tsuchi Hitoya. The ground rose a bit and formed a prison around Choji's body as he lifted his head, wearily. Relax, it wasn't enough to kill you. Let's sit back and see how your friends are doing. Kagai vs Hinata. The two women fought each other blow for blow. The Jukin, which the Hyugas were famous for, was being met by the same hits with chakra flowing out of them to block the Tenketsu ceiling effect. Hinata was getting worn down and suddenly lashed out with a kick, surprising the Kumoku no Ichi. Kagai backflipped out of the way just in time to see Hinata doing hand seals. Kagai instantly went through hand seals of her own. Suiden. Suiryuden no Jutsu. Hinata shouted as water came up in the shape of a dragon from a lake a couple meters off. She had spotted it a while ago and decided to use it to her advantage. Raiden. Ryuhll no Jutsu. Kagai shouted in response. A single strip of lightning came down in the shape of a dragon to match Hinata's water dragon. The two dragons met and a burst of light was the result. Raiden. Raiko no Yaiba. Hinata could hear Kagai shout. She jumped through the blast and came at her, a sword of lightning in her hand. She slashed down, but was blocked by a chakra blade. Hinata had a seal ready in the other hand. Kusahari no Jutsu. Hinata shouted. Kagai noticed as the grass around her shot out suddenly and one got her along the leg. They were razor sharp. Kagai brought her foot up in a kick, but Hinata blocked it, completely missing the fact that Kagai had a seal ready. Kumoenmu no Jutsu. Kagai shouted. The clouds seemed to lower a little bit, making a haze over the field. Kagai struck Hinata with her elbow in the back and made a series of 4 more seals. Kumoda no Jutsu. The clouds thickened around Hinata until her entire body was locked in place. And now we wait for Raikage-sama. Kagai walked over to a wall and leaned on it as the other two had finished. Elsewhere, the Raikage had finished his meeting with Jiraiya. He had just told him that he knew of a samurai clan in Sun Country. If that samurai clan allied with them, they would be a force to be reckoned with. The Yondaime now ran through the streets at blinding speed towards the 6 chakra sources in the middle of town. He arrived to see Shikamaru caught with lightning, Choji with earth, and Hinata with air. He looked each of them over with his Raikage hat hiding his face now. These are the 3 Konoha nin? The Yondaime asked. The 3 Bolt Ninja nodded in response. Nara Shikamaru, Akamichi Choji, Hyuga Hinata, you 3 are top priority to Konoha. Why come here? I don't know about Hinata, but Choji and I wish to join you, Shikamaru replied. I hate that bastard Sasuke and any enemy of that alliance is a friend of mine. Shikamaru had a surprising amount of vigor in that statement for his usual lazy attitude. I'll follow wherever Shikamaru goes, Choji continued. Even if it means going against my friends. Our Hokage betrayed her friend for that bastard Sasuke and I won't forgive her for that. I wish to find someone very important to me, Raikage-sama, Hinata said. I have more chance here. Who is it you wish to find, Hinata-chan? The Raikage asked. Hinata blushed at the chan part. He gave her a foxy grin and each of the former Konoha nin knew who it was instantly. Naruto. Shikamaru shouted, getting to that conclusion first. The grin grew wider as the Raikage threw his cage hat off, sending it to Shinto, who caught it with ease. The one and only, Naruto said with his foxy smirk. There stood the last person they'd have expected. The Yondaime Raikage and former Konoha nin. The one and only, Uzumaki Naruto. Hey, guys. Welcome to Kumo. Strange how things work out. Choji said to himself. The dead last becomes a cage and the two teammates who were supposed to hate each other are allies. Don't disrespect the Raikage-sama, Shinto shouted, getting ready to attack. Calm down, Naruto replied. Shikamaru, Choji, Hinata. This is my Bolt team. Shinto, Jin, and Kagai. Now, you three may become Kumo Nin, but there's one more test. What is it? Shikamaru grinned with his lazy eyes. Can't be hard if Adobe like you came up with it. This'll still be troublesome though. Naruto smirked. All three of you, fight me, Naruto replied. See, all three of us against him, Choji said. It's not that bad. He's still at cage level, Shikamaru replied, be ready for that. But nah Naruto-kun, Hinata whispered. Naruto looked at her with his foxy smirk. Don't worry, I have gathered some of the best medics if we get hurt, Naruto said. We'll be fine. Now, let's go. Naruto got ready as Shikamaru, Choji, and Hinata did the same. Shinto, Judge. Fine. Ready. Shinto started. The three Bolt members poofed away to appear on the rooftops. Go. Naruto made a hand seal and his wrists and ankles glowed a dark purple before fading back to normal. He ran at them, but at a slower pace than his blinding speed. He threw a punch at Shikamaru who ducked and was met with an elbow from Choji. Naruto used this momentum and grabbed Choji's arm, spinning himself around to get behind the fatter boy. He roundhouse kicked Choji in the back and instantly noticed Shikamaru's shadow. He jumped away and got ready for the three again. Shikamaru made hand seals. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu. 5 Shikamarus now stood there. Damn, you guys have to copy me? Naruto smirked. He made hand seals as well. Kaden. Hidama no Jutsu, Fire Release It. Fireball Jutsu. Naruto shot a fireball at Shikamaru, but he ducked out of the way. Nakuden Sensha, Meat Tank. Choji came flying at Naruto in his meat tank form. Naruto jumped back and just noticed Hinata was behind him. He went back and roundhouse kicked her, but she blocked and made a single hand seal. Sorry, Naruto-kun, Hinata whispered. Doden. Doryuheki, Earth Release, Earth Wall. A giant earth wall began to rise at Naruto's feet, sending him into the air. Naruto flipped back, but was caught by Choji's giant hand. Naruto was hurled towards the ground, but he smirked as he made a hand seal. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Mass Shadow Clone Jutsu. The three former Konoha nin were soon surrounded by 1,000 Narutos. The three looked around and helplessly slumped their heads. We can't win this, Shikamaru said. We give. Why? I was just giving you a handicap, Naruto replied. Shikamaru looked at him puzzled and then noticed all the Narutos were facing him. Come on, let me go full out. All the Narutos charged at him and Shikamaru, Choji, and Hinata were all puzzled. He was defeating them easily, so they decided to join in with the fight. Naruto finally stopped as the three former Konoha nin reached him. 10 Narutos stood there. This time they couldn't tell which was real as they hadn't seen through the smoke that had risen from each clone's defeat. Troublesome, Shikamaru muttered, making hand seals. Kage Nui, Shadow Sewing. Shadows shot from the ground, begin to slice through the 10 clones standing before him. They all poofed away in plumes of smoke. Wait, where's Naruto? Choji shouted, alarmed. God, this is so troublesome. Shikamaru muttered to himself. Hyoro no Jutsu, Ice Prison Jutsu. Ice crystals appeared around them and began advancing. The three widened their eyes and began to jump out of the way, but Choji got caught. Naruto appeared in front of him with a smirk on his face. Game over for you. Hijutsu. Sapaya Tsuchiba Suda, Secret Art, Spear Earth Burst. Choji shouted as his spear fell from his back and embedded itself in the ground. A giant burst came up from where Naruto stood and Naruto backflipped out of the way. He suddenly felt that he couldn't control himself and noticed Shikamaru behind him. Now, Hinata, Shikamaru shouted. Hinata appeared in front of him while making a couple hand seals. Megan. Jubaku Satsu, Demonic Illusion, Tree-Binding Death. Hinata shouted. She began to disappear into dust and then a tree came up behind Naruto and wrapped its branches around him. He then saw Hinata appear behind him with a kunai in her hand. Naruto just smirked at her. Megan. Narukumi no Jutsu, Demonic Illusion, Hell's Viewing Jutsu. Naruto continued to smirk. All of a sudden, Hinata saw Naruto burst into flames and disappear within them. Her white eyes widened in fear and she let out a scream before she was kicked in the face, sending her flying, the genjutsu broken. Naruto disappeared from sight and appeared in front of Shikamaru. Doden Kekai. Doridomu, Earth Release Barrier. Dungeon Chamber of Secrets, Choji shouted from behind the two. Hinata appeared in front of Naruto before the giant earth dome surrounded the three. She went to him with a Juken hit. Naruto jumped up and landed on the ceiling of the dome, making hand seals. Raiden. Denduketa, Lightning Release, Electric Beam. Naruto shouted as a beam of electricity shot down at the ground. Hinata and Shikamaru jumped away and a big crater was the result. Naruto stayed on the dome's ceiling with a smirk. He made more hand seals. Sweden. Daibakufu no Jutsu, Water Release, Great Waterfall Jutsu. A giant blast of water was sent at the two ninja. Suddenly, Naruto felt himself draining. You feel the effects of the Dungeon Chamber of Secrets? Shikamaru smirked. He made hand seals and pointed his hand at Naruto. Kage Sapaya, Shikamaru said. A spear made from his shadow shot out, but Naruto bent down and slammed his hands into the ceiling. Futon. Takeire, Air Release, Air Slice. Naruto shouted. The ceiling was sliced up by an invisible force. It caused Naruto to push himself off the wall with extra force as well. Naruto came at the spear and bent himself around to go past it and held out his hand. The wind began to swirl in his hand as he hit the ground. Naruto ran at the side of the wall that Choji was on and pounded the side of the wall. Udama Rasengan, Great Ball Spiraling Sphere. The Rasengan burst and blasted at Choji. Choji got caught in it and flew back, hitting a house hard. Kage Main, Shadow Imitation. Shikamaru said as Naruto lost control of his body. Kage Kai, Shadow Dispel. Naruto said, breaking the Kage Main. Naruto turned around and planted his fist to Shikamaru's face, sending him flying back. Hinata appeared behind Naruto. Hake Kusho. 8 trigrams empty palm. Hinata shouted, extending her hands in her Juken strike. Naruto was sent flying and crashes into the side of a tree, cracking it. Naruto just rose to his feet with a smirk on his face. Naruto ran forward, kicking Hinata in the face. Then he turned around and threw 2 kunai at Shikamaru. Shikamaru dodged and began making more hand seals, but was stopped as Naruto appeared in front of him and grabbed his hands. He backflipped, throwing Shikamaru into Hinata on the way through. As he landed on the ground, both fighters were down. Naruto. Shikamaru muttered, getting to his feet. You can still get up? Naruto asked with surprise. He walked over to one of the kunai he had thrown and picked it up, putting back in his kunai holster. You guys pass, Naruto continued. You can still rise after all that. I had to give you credit. You were gonna let us pass anyway, weren't you? Shikamaru sighed as he sat down on the ground. You're too smart for your own good, Naruto grinned. You guys go get some rest. I had to go check into something. Naruto started to walk away and Shikamaru looked after him. Seems we got a strong cage. Shikamaru murmured. He rose back to his feet and began helping Hinata and Choji up. A pink-haired kunoichi walked through the hospital, going through the daily routine. She stopped at room 209 and opened the door to enter. Lying in the bed was a man with a bowl-cut hairstyle and large eyebrows. The woman looked at the shinobi that had once had a crush on her, now glared at her. That's no way to greet your Hokage, the woman said. I'll never recognize you as a Hokage of mine, Sakura, the man replied. I could have you arrested for such disrespect, Lee, Sakura said. It would be better than working for you, Lee replied. At least Shikamaru, Hinata, and Choji had the sense to leave. Why would you ally with that warmonger, Sasuke? He isn't as bad as all of you think. Sakura began getting aggravated. Prove it, Lee retorted. Sakura's fist clenched, but she just left. All of the old Rookie 9 and Guy's team seemed to hate her now except for Sasuke. She walked away from the room and began heading back to the Hokage tower. She had to get to her paperwork, along with having to meet with the Otokage, Sasuke today. Sakura made a hand seal and poofed to appear in her office where Sasuke was already waiting. She walked to her desk and sat down to regard the Otokage. Sasuke-kun, Sakura whispered. It's good to see you again too, Sakura, Sasuke smirked. He sat in a chair in front of the desk. What's the news here? Well, our battle strategist, Nara Shikamaru, a general for the front lines, Akamichi Choji, and the head of the Hyuga main house, Hyuga Hinata, all abandoned Konoha. They abandoned you? Sasuke asked, a bit surprised. Oh, well, I'll get Kabuto on finding them right away. They'll either end up in Suna or Kumo, so we'll start there. How do you know? Sakura asked. Shikamaru likes that sand girl, Tamari, Sasuke replied. He would most likely go there or to Suna's ally, Kumo. You're so smart, Sasuke-kun. Sakura whispered, a faint blush appearing on her face. Of course I am, Sasuke yawned. He walked past Sakura in thought and then turned with a sick smirk on his face. He walked up behind Sakura and, wrapping his arms around her, his tongue went down the side of her neck. His tongue grew, a trait he picked up from the Habi-sanin, and he licked the side of Sakura's neck in a very Orochimaru-like fashion. Sakura shivered at the sensation and turned slightly. I'll be back, Sasuke said. I want to explore your village a little bit. Sakura nodded, absently, and Sasuke moved along past her. He walked off, out of the Hokage tower, and continued on down the street. Everyone looked at him in fear. You bastard, one shouted. Go back to your snake-ridden village. Sasuke disappeared and instantly reappeared behind the taunting villager. Did you say something? Sasuke asked in a dangerous tone. I'd have to kill a weakling like you. Pick on someone who can take you. Sasuke, another voice came from behind. Sasuke looked back to see an Inuzuka man standing before him. The man had shaggy brown hair and wore a black hoodie with black pants. A giant dog was standing behind him. Kiba, you should know your place, Sasuke replied. Go away before I put you there, like the dog you are. You bastard, fight me if you think you are so tough. Kiba shouted back. He made a hand seal, but his hands were grabbed as Sasuke appeared in front of him, his 3-tomo Sharingan already. Fine, Sasuke replied, bending the hand back. He bent it back until Kiba let out a scream and dropped to his knee. Sasuke kicked Kiba in the side of the head and sent him into a tree. You will mind your business like a good dog. Sasuke smirked at the Inuzuka, crumpled up on the ground now. Sasuke ignored the mess and went back towards the Hokage tower. Not a challenge? A voice asked from behind. Sasuke turned to see a man with gray hair and his hite covering one of his eyes. He wore the standard Junin outfit from those years ago when Sasuke was a genin with Sakura and Naruto. Not at all, sensei, Sasuke replied, emphasizing the sensei part sarcastically. That dog stood no chance against me. You might want to stop this, Sasuke, his sensei replied. Or you will. Or I'll what? Sasuke smirked at his former sensei. I'll anger the great Hitaki Kakashi? You'll get more enemies than you can handle, Kakashi replied, narrowing his eyes slightly. You already have an enemy I don't know you can beat. I could beat every shinobi in this village without a problem, Sasuke replied. And that will make them seek out training, or maybe even get Gaara on you, Kakashi replied. Sasuke shrugged and walked off towards the Hokage tower again. He reached it without further delay and walked to Sakura's office. She had her back turned to him and looked over paperwork, so he walked up behind her, quietly. He got behind her and let his tongue grow again to lick the side of her neck in the Orochimaru-like way. Your shinobi are very disrespectful towards their guests, Sasuke said with a sick smirk. I had to put the Inuzuka in his place. Kiba should be excused from missions for today. He's in no condition now. What did you do to him, Sasuke-kun? Sakura asked without turned around. Sasuke turned her around with an evil smile and tilted her head up. Does it matter, Sakura? Sasuke asked. Sakura shook her head weakly as Sasuke continued to smile at her. I'll be going back to Otto now. Be good while I'm gone. Yes, Sasuke-kun, Sakura whispered as he walked out the door. Naruto sat at his desk as the 3 newest additions to his village sat. He looked them over carefully and then began signing papers. Nara Shikamaru, age 22, Special Junin, Naruto said. Akamichi Choji, age 22, Junin. Hyuga Hinata, age 21, Junin. One of you has to take a team. There's enough for each of you, but I'll let you choose. I'll take a team, Choji spoke up. It'd be good training with the Raiden jutsus you've got. Choji smiled and Naruto nodded with his own smile. Alright, Akamichi Choji, Team 13 is assigned to you, Naruto said. Hidoru Kamachi, age 12. Koru Senbai, age 13. Akane Jurin, age 10. Jurin seems younger than the rest of them, is there a reason? Choji asked. His bloodline allowed him to pass the academy sooner, replied the Yondaime. He was well suited with his chakra and the Akane bloodline helped his control greatly. Choji nodded before Naruto continued. Now, Konoha will probably be after you. Otto as well, if their alliance holds up. Several Konoha nin are scornful towards the Otokage when he visits, Shikamaru informed him. It is a very shaky alliance. Inazuka Kiba, Hitaki Kakashi, and Sarutobi Konohamaru are examples of them. Kiba and Konohamaru are easy to guess, but Kakashi? Naruto put his chin in his hand and thought. Oh, well, I'll see what happens from here. Shikamaru, I'm sending you on a mission to Suna. I want you to meet with Sabaku no Gara, the Yondaime case cage. Discuss the situation of you three to him and tell him not to attack a select few of the Konoha nin. Namely, those who do not seem to like the Otokage. I want to inform our ally that we have 3 traitors and if more of them show up with Kumo Hite Atesh, they are probably genuine. Yes, Raikage-sama, Shikamaru bowed and stepped back. Hinata-chan, Naruto now began. I would like you to the training grounds where Kagai is. You'll find her with the Byakugan. Tell her that you two are to team up on a mission to Wave. Find a boy named Inari with his mother, Tsunami, and his grandfather, Tazuna. Tell them that Konoha and Otto will prove a threat to their land. Ask them to get you two an audience with the Mizukage. I want you to give the Mizukage this scroll. Naruto took out a scroll from underneath his desk and handed it to Hinata. Okay, Naruto-kun. I mean, Raikage-sama, Hinata corrected herself quickly. It's okay, Hinata-chan, Naruto-kun is fine. Naruto gave her his foxy grin. She blushed slightly and nodded her head. Alright, you two go. Choji, your team will be waiting at the academy tomorrow. The 2 former Konoha nin left, leaving Naruto and Choji in the room. Naruto produced 3 photos from a drawer in his desk. In one photo, a boy with black hair was crouched down. He had a black shirt on and black pants with his sneakers not on his feet, revealing marks. The name, Akane Jurin, was at the bottom in Naruto's handwriting. The second was a girl that had short brown hair. She wore a dark red shirt with crimson shorts and blue sneakers. It had Hidora Kamachi at the bottom of it. The last boy had blonde hair and wore a black shirt under a dark red jacket and black pants. He had his hands stuffed in his pockets, trying to look cool, and at the bottom, Koru Sanbei, was written. These are the 3 students, Choji, Naruto said. They'll meet you tomorrow at 9 in the morning at the academy. Yes, Raikage-sama, Choji nodded and began to leave with the photos. Naruto nodded before turning back to his paperwork. The door slammed behind Choji and Naruto then turned to the window. Arrow Sennin, Naruto shouted. What do you want? Jiraiya's sweat dropped from his perch above the window and then got up, glaring at Naruto. I told you not to call me that, brat, Jiraiya muttered. And I've already made it obvious you should nt call me a brat, Naruto replied with a foxy grin. Now, what do you want? That samurai clan in Mountain Country said that they refused to accept any terms unless they meet with the Raikage himself, Jiraiya replied. So I head to Mountain Country then? Naruto asked. Jiraiya nodded. Okay, you'll stay here in case we are attacked or something. Jiraiya nodded again and poofed away. Naruto sat back at his desk and closed his eyes. You can come out now. As perspective as ever, Kyuubi boy, an evil voice replied. Naruto's eyes widened as he looked at the corner to see a white-haired Otto nin with glasses step out. Yakushi Kabuto, Naruto acknowledged. What are you doing here? I just need to kill those 3 traitors and I'll be on my way, Kabuto replied with a grin. Come on, Naruto-kun, just show me where they are. Raikage-sama, Jin said, appearing next to Kabuto's left side. Who is this spy? Shinto asked, appearing on Kabuto's right side. Just an Otto nin, Naruto replied. Take care of him, but be careful. He is strong. They nodded before Naruto disappeared and reappeared in front of him. You're out of your league against me now. If you come back here after Bolt's done with you, I'll kill you myself. Naruto disappeared as he jumped out the window. So, you two are Bolt? Kabuto asked with a smirk. Fine by me. His hands began to glow blue as blades appeared and he brought them up at the 2 shinobis' chests. The two ducked and moved themselves to either side of Kabuto. Shinto was in back and drew out a giant zanbatu that was strapped to his back. Jin drew a smaller katana at his waist. "You will die, spy," Jin said as he faced the white-haired ninja. "We will not tolerate auto within the walls of Kumo." "That's right," Shinto continued. "I won't allow a threat to the Raikage-sama stand. He has done so much as the Yondaime, there is no way you will get near him." "And you think you can defeat me?" Kabuto asked, amused by the whole situation. Jin disappeared from sight and appeared in front of Kabuto. He slammed the hilt of his katana into Kabuto's chin and then brought his foot up into his side, causing him to fly into the wall. Shinto appeared behind him and grabbed him by the back of the collar before Kabuto's body turned to mud. "Let's at least take this outside," Kabuto said, standing on the windowsill now. Jin appeared in front of him again and kicked him in the stomach, sending him flying. Shinto disappeared from view and punched Kabuto in the face. Jin spun himself around and struck Kabuto in the side with a hard kick. Kabuto was sent down into the ground and just got back to his feet with a smirk. His glasses broke and he let them fall, but he looked up at Jin, who was perched on top of a house. Sweden. Daibakufu no Jutsu, water release, grand waterfall jutsu. Jin shouted as a giant torrent of water shot at Kabuto. Kabuto made a hand seal and smirked. Sweden. Suiryuden no Jutsu, water release, water dragon jutsu. Kabuto shouted, causing the giant-formed water to change direction in the shape of a dragon and head at Shinto. Shinto jumped over it and made some hand seals, pulling out 3 shuriken. He tossed all of them at once. Futon. Rasen shuriken, air release, spiral shuriken. Shinto shouted as the shuriken all picked up wind and swirled at Kabuto. Kabuto backstepped away from them, but was pushed back into a wall by the wind. Shinto grinned as he changed the hand seal to another one. Keizeya, wind arrow. An arrow formed from the wind around them and shot into Kabuto's stomach hard. Kabuto coughs up a bit of blood, but makes a hand seal. His hand starts to glow with green chakra as he places it over the wound, healing it quickly. "You fools won't beat me," Kabuto said with a smirk, pushing himself off the wall. 2 more kunai embedded themselves into his chest as Jin had thrown them, but Kabuto turned to mud. The 2 looked around in shock. "The spy got away," Shinto muttered. "He won't get away," Jin replied. "Let's hurry to the gate. Shagan is watching it. Kabuto will have to put up one hell of a fight to escape before we get there." Shinto grinned and nodded. The 2 were off. The white-haired shinobi, Kabuto, ran through the streets of Kumokage. He had to escape back to Otokage before the other 2 caught up. They must have realized his trick by now. He reached the gate to find a very experienced-looking ninja standing before him. The man had a wolf mask that covered his face. "You are the spy Jin told me about?" the man asked. "I am Shigane. This is as far as you go." Kabuto just made a hand seal and holds his hand out towards Shigane. "We'll see," he replied. Zankuha, air-slicing blast. The 2 bolt shinobi jumped down from the rooftops in front of the gates to see a beat-up shinobi lying on the ground. His wolf mask was cracked, showing one eye that had a look of fear on it. The 2 bent down and looked at him in surprise. He was dead. He seemed to be in complete shock from whatever his opponent had used. "That guy has the power to kill Shagan so easily?" Jin asked. "It seems so," Shinto replied. "We better up the village defenses. He could be back and I don't think we've seen his full potential." "I agree," Jin nodded. "Get the rest of the Bolt Squad to patrol the city on regular intervals. Set 2 of them up outside the Raikage office. Another 2 outside of the Raikage tower itself. 2 more at the 4 gates. The rest patrol the city regularly. Switch off once they finish with one of the groups of 2. "Right," Shinto replied with a quick nod. "What will you do?" "I will inform Jiraiya-sama of the new predicament," Jin said. "I'll also get informed Choji and then get Rigeku. He'll head to Wave to inform Hinata and Kagai of the new threat. I'll go to catch up with Shikamaru and inform our allies, Suna. I'll see you later." Shinto and Jin nodded and poofed away in a puff of smoke. In the Suna, a newly admitted Kumo nin, Nara Shikamaru, walked towards the office of the case cage. He came to the door to the case cage tower to see a blonde-haired woman standing before him. "Lazy ass," was her only greeting. "So, you joined Kumo?" Smart move. I wouldn't want to have to kill you in the war. War? Shikamaru raised his eyebrow. What war, Tamari? The war that will inevitably happen between us and Konoha, Tamari replied. Tamari had definitely grown out over the years. She was as beautiful as ever and now wore a black shirt that showed off some cleavage and black pants. Her hair was still tied back how it was years ago. I see, Shikamaru muttered. I'm supposed to report to Kasukage-sama. Gaara? I'll take you to him. Tamari led Shikamaru into the tower and walked off towards his office. Shikamaru followed closely behind. The two walked until they reached a big door at the end of the hallway. So how long are you staying? Tamari finally asked. I don't know, Shikamaru replied. I could stay for at least 3 days without getting questioned for staying longer. That's great, Tamari said. I'll ask Gaara about getting you a room. She grinned and opened the door. Gaara, Shikamaru is here to see you. I want nothing with your village, Shikamaru, Gaara said coldly. I'm with Kumo Kagure now, Shikamaru replied. Gaara stared blankly at him for a second and then nodded. Shikamaru then noticed the sand that had gathered near his feet retreat towards Gaara. He shuddered at how easily he could have been killed, but walked in. Somewhere in Wave Country, Hyuga Hinata walked through the lands of Wave with Kagai by her side. They reached a large bridge as the forest ended and looked at the sign on it. The Great Naruto Bridge? Kagai asked with surprise in her voice. Reikage-sama must be famous around here. Hey, get out of here, Kumo, a voice shouted from across the bridge. Kagai looked over and Hinata was snapped out of her shock by the voice. A girl stood there. She could be no older than 16 and stood with a blue shirt on with blue pants. She had brown hair that was put back into a short ponytail. Wave wants nothing to do with you. Umi. You're getting in over your head, a boy said from beside her. He had short brown hair and wore a red cap. He had a gray t-shirt on and black pants. The two stood towards the Kumo Nin and from there, the two kunoichi could see they clearly had ninja training. You wouldn't understand, Umi said. I have to fight them. Then I'll help, the boy sighed. Inari, don't help if you don't want. I'm helping. Hinata looked at the boy quickly. Inari? She asked. The boy looked at her and nodded. Our mission concerns you. We need to meet with your mother, Tsunami, and your grandfather, Tazuna. Okay, I'll show you, Inari began. Fight us first, Umi shouted. We won't take you unless you defeat us. I have a mission from the Reikage-sama, Kagai said. I will complete it, even if I must defeat 2 brats like you. Hey, who are you calling a brat? Inari shouted, pulling out a kunai and getting ready. Let's show them, Umi. I must prove myself to Naruto-kun. Hinata whispered. Kagai-san, let me take them by myself. Kagai looked at her and then at the kids. Fine, they aren't worth my time, Kagai concluded, disappearing to reappear at the top of one of the support beams. But if you get in trouble, I'm stepping in. Fine by me, Hinata replied. She slipped into her Jukin stance as the other two got ready to fight. Umi ran forward, followed by Inari, to begin to fight Hinata. Mountain Country. Uzumaki Naruto, the Yondaime Reikage, walked through the mountainous terrain of Mountain Country. He was going up a path to a large building at the top. A man appeared in front of him with blinding speed. You are Uzumaki Naruto? The man asked. Naruto simply nodded. Izukuchi Ryuko. I am the head of the Izukuchi, the samurai clan Jiraiya-sama must have told you about. Naruto nodded again. We will listen to your proposals. But you have to face me in a duel first. I thought I would come to this. Naruto smirked as he made a couple of hand seals. He grabbed a scroll and continued his hand seals with one hand. He ended by biting the end of his thumb and bringing out the scroll. There was a large poof and a sword appeared in Naruto's hand. The sword was a katana with a fox engraved on it, running up the side of it like flames. The hilt was golden and the handle had golden flames going up it. Ah, flashy sword, Ryuko grinned, drawing his own katana. It's called the Kitsune no Yaiba, Foxblade. Naruto grinned. You'll find that it's hard to beat me with it, Ryuko. But do you have the experience to beat me? Ryuko asked. We'll just have to see who is the better swordsman. Ryuko slid his legs apart and held his sword vertically in front of him. I guess we shall, Naruto replied. He spread his legs out as well and placed the sword near to his head, bringing both his hands back. The two disappeared and appeared in the center of the battlefield. Blades clashed. The case cage office. You decided to join Kumo? Gaara asked. Yes, Gaara, Shikamaru yawned. The front-line general, Akamichi Choji, and the head of the Hyuga main house, Hyuga Hinata, have also betrayed Konoha. We were meant to search these lands for Naruto, but decided to join Kumo Kagure when we found out he was the Raikage. And you come to me to tell me this news? Gaara asked. You will be treated as an ally once more. What are your reasons to betray Konoha to find one man? I want that bastard Sasuke dead and Konoha to return to its former glory, Shikamaru replied. Choji followed me because he wanted to help his friend. Hinata has a crush on Naruto and didn't want to have to kill him because she was a Konoha nin. I see, Gaara muttered. You are welcome to stay the night. Tamari will see to it that you get a room. Cage-sama, all our hotels are full, Tamari replied. Why is that? Gaara asked. Konoha refugees and Oto refugees have sought their shelter here and in Kumo, Tamari replied. Also, there are a couple of missing nin that wish to join us. And why do they choose now? It must be the inevitable war between us and Konoha. I see. See to it that he gets a room. It doesn't have to be in the hotel. Just get him a room. Gaara waved them off as he started thinking. It seems Konoha will lose some valuable ninja before the war begins. The Great Naruto Bridge. Inari got in front of Hinata and went for a kick that was easily blocked. Umi jumped up and jumped off Inari's shoulder to jump up and drop kick Hinata over the head. Hinata disappeared in a splash of water and Umi was soon struck in the back with a Jukin hit. Hinata pivoted and used Jukin on Inari, striking him in the arm. Hyuga, Inari muttered before he splashed into water as well. You won't win. She was kicked over the head by Inari from behind. Inari made a hand seal. Mizu Bunshin, a clone of Inari, grew from the puddles of water around them. Inari kicked Hinata in the stomach, sending her into the air. Ari. The two clones he made both punched her in the stomach to make her go higher. Inari jumped up in the air with his clones and they all twisted as they passed to kick her in the back. Renden. Hinata crashed into the ground and then splashed into water. Hake Kusho. 8 trigrams empty palm. Hinata's voice came from above. Inari looked up to see Hinata thrust out both her palms and smash him in the face. Inari crumbled to the ground where he stood and coughed up blood. You bitch! Umi shouted from behind, striking her in the back with a hard punch. She then spun back around and drop-kicked her in the shoulder. Hinata quickly grabbed her leg and twisted herself to sweep-kick Umi. Before Umi landed, she splashed into a puddle again. You overused the Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu, water clone jutsu. Hinata observed, shifting out of the Jukin stance and making a hand seal. Naruto-kun. This technique sprouts from your signature move. I hope I can impress you. Hinata altered the hand seal a bit and shouted, Taju Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu, mass water clone jutsu. An army of 100 Hinatas appeared around the two-wave ninja. Inari looked around. This is Naruto Onichan Jutsu. Inari made a hand seal. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Kagai continued to watch and raised an eyebrow in confusion to this as the jutsu didn't start and there were no clones that appeared. You know the Raikage-sama's jutsu? Kagai called out. Raikage-sama? Inari called back. This is Naruto Onichan's signature jutsu. So, you know Naruto? Kagai asked. Inari nodded. Then we have no reason to fight. Our Raikage-sama, your Naruto Onichan, wishes to talk to the Mizukage. This land and the land of Kiri will become part of our allied territory. We will protect you from Oto and Konoha. Just take us to your mother and grandfather. All right, Inari said. But how do I know you're telling the truth? Here is a picture of our Raikage-sama, Kagai called out, dropping the picture. Inari looked at it to see a blonde-haired man with whisker marks on his cheeks, wearing the Raikage hat. Okay, I'll help you, Inari shouted. No, Umi shouted. I won't let you take our land. I'll protect this land. Hinata's eyes widened at the girl's determination. If you're going to be a traitor, I won't hesitate to beat you too, Inari. One of the Hinata Mizu Bunshins grabbed Inari and jumped up to the top of the support beam with Kagai. Umi, stop, Hinata said. You are surrounded. I am a Junin-leveled kunoichi. You can't win. I won't let you come in here and take our land. Umi shouted as a light blue aura started coming off her, surrounding her normal blue chakra. A tail began to whip out behind her as her eyes started changing to match the light blue chakra. What is this? Inari and Hinata gasped. This is what happened to Naruto when Kyuubi starts to take over, Kagai answered in shock. She must have a demon inside her. The Kyuubi? Inari asked. The nine-tailed fox? Yes. It was sealed inside him. It's the reason Konoha abandoned him. It is the reason he has become our Yondaime RyuHll, Kagai answered. Umi made a hand seal as the light blue chakra flared up in anger. Umi's hair changed to a shade of light blue while the chakra took the form of a tail behind her. Mizu Hashira, water pillar. Umi's voice took on a more demonic tone as a pillar of water shot up from the bridge, engulfing the Mizu buncheons of Hinata. Hinata began to spin quickly to protect herself from the attack. Umi stood there with one hand raised and smirked evilly. She made another hand seal. Mizugai, water scythe. A scythe appeared out of the water and fell down to be grasped in Umi's hand. Hinata, I'm helping, Kagai shouted, making a hand seal. No, Hinata shouted back. I'll take care of her. You protect Inari. Hinata made a hand seal. Onishwin, demon sealing. Kagai looked on as Hinata's hand glowed a bright green. The green chakra was then mixed with the normal blue chakra. Hinata held back her hand, getting ready to charge. Kagai stood up, ready to help if needed. Umi hoisted the scythe over her shoulder and got ready to charge at Hinata as well. The two kunoichi launched at each other with blinding speed. Suna. Tamari led Shikamaru outside of the cage tower. The hotel is full at the moment so we have no rooms for you, Tamari said. We don't have any other rooms so I'll let you stay at. There was a giant explosion from the northern part of the village and Tamari and Shikamaru both stopped instantly. They looked at each other and nodded before both disappearing to go check out the disturbance. Mountain country. Naruto and Ryuko broke the clash between their blades and jumped to the side before slashing again. They met dead on. Naruto and Ryuko both pressed their weight into the attack, making their faces closer together. I won't let you win, Naruto said. My village needs your support. And I won't listen to a village with a weak leader, Ryuko replied, pushing his blade to the side and using the momentum to sidestep around Naruto, ending up behind him. And this village does have a weak leader. Ryuko slashed across Naruto's back, but Naruto poofed out of sight. Sure about that, Naruto shouted, coming down with a slash from above. Ryuko raised his blade to block him as he came down. Naruto pushed his weight down a little bit more and Ryuko shoved off, making Naruto jump back. Naruto brought his sword up. Doden Kenjutsu. Tsuchi Ketsuretsu no Jutsu, Earth Sword Release. Earth Rupture. Naruto slammed his sword down, causing the earth to crash up in the impact, heading towards the Izakuchi head. Ryuko sheathed his katana and smirked. Izakuchi Hijutsu. Tenkaier, Izakuchi Secret Jutsu, Heaven Slice. Ryuko shouted, slicing upwards with his blade. It shot out a white glow that trailed the blade, splitting the earth attack in half. As soon as the earth attack was out of the way, Ryuko could see Naruto jumping at him. Ryuko blocked and spun back to roundhouse kick him in the side, making him poof away. Kaden Kenjutsu. Kanzenshi, Fire Sword Release, Flame Stab. Naruto's Kitsune no Yaiba was surrounded in flames as he made a stab from behind. Ryuko brought his hand down to his side and switched his grip so he held his katana in a reverse grip, blocking the blade. You had to do better than that, Reikage-sama, Ryuko smirked as he glanced back at his opponent. Ryuko brought his head back, head-butting Naruto square on the forehead. Naruto back-flipped to avoid being caught off guard and got into a defensive stance as Ryuko charged. He slashed downward, but Naruto blocked and slid the blade to the slide before elbowing Ryuko in the chest, making him step back a bit. Naruto then continued with a punch with his free hand, hitting Ryuko square on the jaw. Ryuko stumbled back, but regained his form enough to block the vertical slash from Naruto. You are as good as they say, Izakuchi-sama, Naruto complimented. Please, call me Ryuko, Ryuko replied with a grin before pushing off. The two stood there, staring each other down. Ryuko, Naruto muttered as he looked to see what move he would make. Reikage-sama, Ryuko replied as he looked to see what move Naruto would make. Call me Naruto, Naruto grinned his foxy grin. He shifted his muscles as if he was going to move, but Ryuko was already ahead of him. Ryuko disappeared to appear to Naruto's right and then disappeared again to appear in front of Naruto, katana held above his head. Fast. Naruto blocked the slash quickly. Of course I'm fast, Ryuko replied. I'm not the head of the Izukuchi clan for nothing. Ryuko's arm seemed to phase away from Naruto's blade and slash him across the stomach. Let me out, Kit. That bastard is messing with the seal. Naruto jumped back, grabbing his stomach in pain. Shut up, you damn fox. But if you let me out, I can make him join you. You'll kill him, being the sadistic bastard Kitsune you are. And is that a problem? The conversation was cut off as Naruto had to duck to avoid a horizontal slash that would have lopped his head off. Ryuko changed direction of his blade, causing Naruto to back roll out of the way. Pay attention to the battle. Ryuko shouted. You'll get killed at this rate. Ryuko jumped up to bring his blade down, but Naruto blocked with the Kitsune no Yaiba and a red spark shot off it, deflecting Ryuko back. I said stay down there. Naruto tried to slash at Ryuko's neck, but was blocked with ease. You're losing your concentration, Raikage, Ryuko said. If you aren't gonna fight me at your full strength, leave now because I won't hold back. I need to defeat you to protect my village. Naruto shouted, disengaging their blades and slashing at Ryuko's legs. Ryuko drove his katana down to block, but then noticed the blade go across his chest in a diagonal. Ryuko jumped back for some distance. What the hell? Ryuko gasped. Genjutsu, Naruto grinned. Ryuko grinned as well. Gonna try now? Ryuko asked. You bet. The two disappeared in blinding speed. An indent appeared on the rock walls to either side of the pass cracked under an invisible pressure. Then the two warriors met in mid-air. Blades locked once more. The Great Naruto Bridge. The two kunoichi stood facing each other. Hinata had a greenish-bluish glow around her hand. Umi had light blue chakra trailing off her in the form of a tail and a scythe made of water in one hand. The two charged at each other in a blinding feat of speed. Umi brought the scythe down and Hinata extended her hand. There was a flash of light. Hinata! Kagai shouted. The light faded to show Hinata had her hand placed firmly onto Umi's stomach. The water scythe was also embedded into Hinata's upper back. The wound had blood pouring out of it as Hinata fell to her knee, coughing up blood. Umi fell back as the scythe disappeared. Inari and Kagai both jumped down to assist their companions. Inari helped Umi up and Kagai hoisted Hinata over her shoulder. So, Inari whispered, "Take me to your grandfather's house," Kagai said. "I can treat them there." Inari nodded and jumped off, followed closely by Kagai. Mountain country. Naruto backflipped over Ryuko from where they were clashed and kicked him in the small of his back, sending him back into the wall. Naruto then landed and spun back with a slash. Fuuden Kenjutsu. Teijiden, air sword release, air spin. Naruto shouted as the air from the blade began to make a swirling motion like a shuriken and spin straight at Ryuko. The attack crashed and Ryuko fell from the rubble. Naruto appeared next to him to catch him before he was completely on the ground. Ryuko-sama, Naruto whispered. It was a good match. I woulda won, if I went full out. Ryuko grinned, despite his condition. Naruto grinned too. Oh, and you weren't going full out? Naruto grinned. Ryuko chuckled a bit. Just go up this way. Take me to the clan house, Ryuko muttered. We'll get you a room and we'll be able to discuss this in an hour or two. Naruto nodded as he hoisted Ryuko onto his shoulder. Suna, Shikamaru and Temari appeared before a scene that they could only gape at. Several Suna nin were scattered around the ground. There were two men standing in the entrance. One was a man with spiky black hair and sunglasses hiding his eyes. He wore a black hoodie that was worn in a way that you could see it was over a black shirt and black pants. The hoodie went down to his knees. The other had white hair that was matted down. He wore a blue trench coat over a red shirt and black pants. Who are you? Temari questioned. Wouldn't you like to know? The one in the blue trench coat grinned. The two ninja then noticed bugs scattered along the ground and Temari quickly swept them away with a big gust from her fan. Aburame, Temari muttered. Shino, what are you doing here? Shikamaru spoke up. And who are you with? This is the mercenary Konoha hired to bring a message to you with me, Shino said. Konoha says that if you do not stop affiliation with Kumo within 5 days, we will attack you. And if you protect them, we will destroy you. Who is this mercenary now? Shikamaru asked. The name's Virgil, the man smirked. You'll be dead soon enough. Virgil turned around and started to leave. Tell that to your case cage. Aburame, we should go. Virgil jumped off. Shino sighed and followed after him at blinding speed. Shino. Shikamaru muttered, surprised that one of the rookie 9 besides Sakura and Sasuke would treat him like that. Let's go tell Gaara. Temari nodded and the two disappeared. Konoha. Sakura stood before an army of her shinobi. The Konoha nin all stood ready for a long trek. Sakura stepped along the lines of men and women. All of you, Sakura began. I have received word from the Otokage, Uchiha Sasuke, that Kumokagore is home to the demon we have driven out all those years ago and the traitors from just this week. We are to march in junction with Otokagore to take them down. Sanakagore won't attack under the circumstances Sasuke has arranged. March. All of the ninja disappeared at blinding speed. Their destination, Kumokagore. Otto. Kabuto has informed me of a great threat in Kumo. Sasuke shouted to his lined-up ninja. We are to march in junction with Konoha. Get ready for battle. We shall defeat them. Kabuto is arranging to delay Suna so we may crush Kumo with everything we've got. The Raikage is absent at the moment. Now is the best time, go my men. Charge. All the ninja disappeared at blinding speed as Sasuke looked on. If Kabuto was right, it will be very soon, Dobi. Sasuke disappeared from sight as well. Jiraiya sat atop the Raikage tower. He looked over the village, now clad in a suit of armor from his younger days. Back when he was with. No, he couldn't think of them right now. He had a battle to get ready for. A shinobi poofed in behind him. Report, Jiraiya ordered, looking as Shinobi and Kunoichi jumped around the village, trying to secure it. Konoha is coming from the south, the shinobi replied. They are marching through mountain country, but it seems they have a split formation to avoid the Izukuchi. Half of them will strike us from the southwest and half of them from the southeast. Otokagore is coming full off from the east. We are still missing Hinata and Kagai as they are south, in Kirikagore, by now. Rigeku should be with them too. I sent Choji to go find Shikamaru and request assistance from Suna. Alright, get back to work then, Jiraiya nodded to him. He sat down crossed-legged in his armor. It was similar to the Akamichi type of armor, but different forms of it. From the distance, Jiraiya could see an army. A giant one from the east and two smaller ones from the southwest and southeast. The battle is beginning. Jiraiya made a hand seal and poofed away. South Gate. Shinto and Jin stood at the gate, thousands of shinobi and kunoichi behind them. Jin and Shinto had seen Konoha's army coming from the southeast and southwest. The two split their force in half and marched off to meet the two approaching forces. Jin, Shinto whispered into his headset. Remember what the plan is. Of course I remember, Jin replied, slightly annoyed. The two forces stopped their march quite away from the approaching Konoha nin, Shinto and Jin at the head of each. West Gate. Jiraiya appeared in the front of the shinobi and kunoichi of the West Gate, watching the oncoming Otokagore army. The Otokage wasn't seen at the head. He must be hiding back there to assist after a while. Jiraiya looked at the army and sighed. Why is it now? Jiraiya questioned to no one in particular. I don't see why it would start now. When our power is weakest and our Raikage is gone. Suddenly, the army disappeared in a fading shade. Jiraiya's eyes widened as he made a hand seal. Kai. Nothing happened, revealing that the army had been a genjutsu. Suddenly, a giant boulder crashed out from the trees to the side of them, taking out two platoons of shinobi before one raised his hand. Doden. Ryoku, Earth Release. Strength, the shinobi shouted. He stopped the boulder and it was crushed easily. Then, from the other side, a rain of shuriken and kunai came down, taking out a couple more ninja. From the front, a giant snake shot up out of the ground and came at the group. Damn it, Jiraiya shouted, making a hand seal. Kaichios no jutsu, summoning jutsu. A giant toad appeared in a puff of smoke to battle the snake. The two began as the rest of the Kumo nin launched at the oncoming Oto nin from the trees. Jiraiya jumped up and began making more hand seals. Raiden. Shiro Raiko, lightning release, white lightning. A blast of white lightning shot from Jiraiya's hand and blew back a couple of the Oto nin. Dokutama, poison shot. A voice shouted from behind. Jiraiya twisted back, avoiding a little ball that was tainted black. The ball hit the stump of a tree and it instantly began to die and become blackened. Jiraiya turned to see a familiar white-haired ninja standing before him. Kabuto. Long time, Jiraiya acknowledged with a glare. You have overstayed your time on this plane, Sannin. Kabuto smirked at the aging shinobi. You are the last of them. And you shall die as such before this war is over. Kabuto made a hand seal, but was stopped as Jiraiya threw a kunai. Kabuto caught it and then noticed the explosive tag attached to it that exploded. Kabuto shot out of the smoke with a chakra scalpel ready. You don't know anything about the true power of a Sannin. Jiraiya shouted, making a hand seal and forming a spear out of his own chakra. He blocked the scalpel, but Kabuto just smirked more. You never cease to annoy me, Jiraiya, Kabuto replied. Just die as my master would have wished it. Your master was a sadistic bastard that had no right to live in this plane of existence. You're just upset that your precious Tsunade died fighting him. Show some respect, bastard. Jiraiya deflected the scalpel and then kicked Kabuto in the side, causing him to stagger. You want win, old man, Kabuto replied, making the scalpel grow a bit. The southeastern front. Jin and his men all disappeared into the trees surrounding the village and all of the shinobi began to jump through, looking for Konoha Nen. Kaden. Enku Funsha no Jutsu, fire release. Flame jet jutsu. One of the shinobi shouted. A jet of flames shot out of the brush and burned a couple of Kumo Nen. Jin instantly made hand seals. Noticing these hand seals, the Kumo Nen instantly backed off to give him some space. Raiden. Dendu Bakuyakuheki, lightning release, electric explosive burst. Jin began his move that he had developed. Electricity surrounded him as he let out a roar of anger and the electricity violently left him. The terrain around them was caught up in the blast as well as a number of Konoha Nen. When the blinding flash faded, Konoha Nen were strewn about the field, but one just stood there. He had hisen up with a barrier surrounding him. So, you are the legendary, Kido Jin, the man smirked. He wore a red trench coat and had white hair. He didn't have a shirt on under the trench coat, but he wore black pants with black combat boots. I am Dante, he continued. I challenge one with such great power as yours. Jin grinned slightly. Maybe you will prove a challenge, Jin replied. His shinobi and kunoichi shot out of hiding and began to battle with Konoha Nen that shot out of the forest. Jin and Dante stared each other down. Dante placed his hand around the handle of his blade and crouched down slightly. Jin placed his hand on the hilt of his katana at his side. You are known as the Raiko Oni, lightning demon. Dante said with a smirk. I am a half-demon. Let's see whose demon is stronger. Dante charged forward and slashed down, but Jin blocked with ease. I already know I am, Jin replied with his own smirk. The two locked gazes and then disappeared in a flash of speed. The southwestern front. Men, keep moving, Shinto ordered. The forest is thick and they will be waiting. We should act like we are unaware and strike them when they strike. There were a chorus of hi from the ninja as they continued on. They jumped out into the clearing and a swirl of flames shot out at them. All the ninjas shredded into pieces of lightning and disappeared as the real ones came out and to meet the oncoming Konoha Nen. Shinto flipped over and landed to view the scene. Ah, Shinto, a voice came from behind. The Raiko Yaju, lightning beast. Shinto tilted his head back and saw Virgil standing there. I am a half-demon, Virgil. Let's see if your beast can keep up with my demon. A flash of blue went over Virgil and he disappeared. Shinto just placed his hand at the end of his hilt and shot his thumb up, sending his katana out. He grabbed it with his other hand just in time to block Virgil's blade. You want defeat one of bolt, Shinto said. He made a single hand seal with his free hand and his blade was filled with lightning, pushing Virgil back. We'll see if you can defeat a demon, Virgil replied. He held out his hand and a greenish, ghostly-looking sword shot out. Shinto just dodged, but he had to spin around and block before he could be chopped in two. This will be fun, Virgil muttered before smirking, insanely. The western front. Jiraiya made a hand seal and held his breath back. Kabuto threw a kunai with an explosive tag so Jiraiya couldn't finish and had to jump out of the way. Jiraiya tossed his own kunai at the one Kabuto threw and deflected it into the body of a Otto Nen. The Otto Nen exploded, taking down two more with it. As skilled as ever, you old goat, Kabuto smirked. Jiraiya replied by making a hand seal. Kaden. Hidama no Jutsu, fire release, fireball jutsu. Jiraiya said, shooting a fireball at Kabuto. Kabuto made a hand seal in response. Otojiki, sound direct. Kabuto replied. A ringing was heard behind Jiraiya. He tilted his head and saw a kunai with a bell on it, dropped by an Oto Kunoichi. The fireball went back and was sent at Jiraiya, who narrowly missed the oncoming attack. Jiraiya made more hand seals, ending in an incomplete version of the tiger seal. Kauen Gamma no Jutsu, flame toad jutsu. Jiraiya said. He held out his hand and a flaming toad shot out. A second one followed and Kabuto twisted himself to dodge the first. The second was close when Jiraiya completed his tiger seal. Bakuretsu Gamma, exploding toad. The toads both exploded around Kabuto. Kabuto's body fell limp out of the smoke. He landed on his feet and went down to a crouch. Gamma Sanin. Your end is today. You don't even know where Sasuke-sama or Sakura-sama is, do you? Kabuto made a couple hand seals and Jiraiya gasped as he saw the end of them. Edo Tensei, Impure World Resurrection. Two coffins shot out of the ground around Kabuto as he began to grin wildly. The southeastern front. Jin made a slash for Dante, but he just went back and then came up again and headbutted him, sending him back a bit. He made a hand seal and smirked more. Isu Kaichios, Ice Summon. Dante said, holding his hand out. Nunchucks appeared, but they weren't ordinary. They had 3 parts that could be held and an icy cold mist was rising from it. This is Cerberus. It is a special weapon. Why don't you see what it can do? Dante flipped as so his other hand grabbed one of the parts and he began to spin it around himself with a certain expertise. Then let's see how you deal with this, Jin replied, making a hand seal. Raikoyari, lightning spear. Jin held out his hand and lightning shot down to form a spear. It had a golden handle and 3 throngs at the end. The throngs were curved a bit to make a more painful stab when you jerk it out of the opponent's body. It glowed with a strange yellow aura and small electrical shocks went around at random intervals. Jin spun it and then got into a stance with it. You are known for your weapons, Dante smirked. You have a variety you can use. Along with your incredible lightning jutsu, extreme taijutsu, and kenjutsu skills, you are a worthy opponent. But can you beat a true demon? Dante had a red flash before disappearing. He appeared in front of Jin and swung down with 2 parts ready to hit him in the same spot. Jin twisted the spear back and shifted to his other hand to bring it up and block. I think I could handle my own, Jin said. He threw a kick at Dante and connected with his chin, sending him up. Jin then pointed his spear up and his 3 throngs glowed yellow. They all split off and formed around Dante's airborne body. They formed into electrical people and the first kicked him higher and then flew up, shooting into him. The second went up, grabbed his leg, and elbowed him in the back. Then he spun around and shot into him like a drill. The third shot him up higher while spinning like a drill too. All 3 formed above and shot into him, sending him towards the ground. What the? Dante shouted in surprise as the attacks came and he got hurled towards that ground. The 3 throngs formed back on the spear and Jin twisted again, shifting to his other hand once more, and batted Dante in the stomach, crashing him into the ground harder. Raikoyari Renden, lightning spear combo. Jin said. Dante coughed up blood. He began pulsating red and shot up quickly. He ran to the end of the clearing and went down to 1 knee. It ends now, mercenary. You don't know where the Hokage-sama is, do you? Dante looked back. You should have watched your east gate, I'd say. There was a sudden explosion from that direction and Jin's eyes widened. Better get going, eh? Jin was about to strike him down, but then looked back. Damn it. He took off in that direction, followed by the rest of the Kumo Nin still alive with him. The southwestern front. You are similar to the Inuzuka of Konoha, RyuHll mused. You have the familiars of a beast, but you are one of lightning. You are the sole remainder in your clan after the Akatsuki destroyed them. You were lucky. Gone with a friend to another village with his father. You know too much, Shinto replied with a sharp glare. If you dare speak of my family from your filthy mercenary mouth, I will slaughter you where you stand. Oh? RyuHll asked, amused. I don't think you are one to talk. RyuHll pulsated a blue aura and his arm grew blue and more like it was his skin torn off of his arm. He held it out to the Kumo Nin. This is just part of my demonic form. I will strike you down like this. He disappeared and before he was visible, A gash appeared across Shinto's left shoulder. He gripped it and RyuHll appeared behind him. Fast, Shinto muttered, but can you keep up with this? Shinto pulsated a yellow aura for a second and disappeared. He appeared in front of RyuHll with a feral look on his face. He punched hard and sent RyuHll flying back. RyuHll flipped back until he slammed his back into a tree. Shinto disappeared and kicked RyuHll in the gut, sending him crashing through the tree. RyuHll rose slowly. Do you know where the Hokage-sama is? RyuHll smirked, slowly. Or how about the Otokage-sama? I'm sure Jiraiya is being kept in the dark by Kabuto as it is. Maybe the North Gate? As if on cue, there was an expulsion from the North and East Gates. You could finish me, but you won't have time to stop their infiltration. RyuHll pulsated blue and disappeared from his sheer speed. Shinto cursed under his breath and ran off towards the gates with the remainder of his ninja. The South Gate. Shinto and Jin appeared with their ninja behind them. They looked over at the gates and sighed. Jin, head to the North Gate, Shinto said. You have the most chance against Sasuke. Sakura has Konoha Nin and I'd be the most likely to be able to take on an Inuzuka with my abilities. Jin nodded. He motioned for his men to move towards there. Shinto motioned for his men to move to the East Gate. You better not die, Shinto, Jin said. You know this won't be the last battle. We'll need you later on and you know it. Of course, Shinto replied. Same goes for you, Raiko Oni. Shinto smirked in his direction and Jin couldn't help but send the same smirk back. The two disappeared in a flash, heading for their own respective spots. The Western Front. Jiraiya stood in shock at the jutsu. Two coffins now stood before him. He already knew who would step out of each. Jiraiya made a hand seal. Gamma no Tate, Toad Shield. Jiraiya shouted. A shield shaped like a toad appeared out of the ground in front of both, stopping the opening doors. Kabuto landed on top of the two coffins with a frown on his face as he looked at the shield that blocked his coffins. Suddenly, the door was smashed and a fat man with an orange mohawk charged out of the left coffin. He looked at the Sannin and smirked. Is this the bastard I should take out, Kabuto? The man asked. Yes, Hirobu, Kabuto replied with the same smirk. Oh, and if you can make it past him, the fat ass that killed you resides in this village. Hirobu's eyes flashed with rage as he charged forward. He brought his fist back and slammed it in front of Jiraiya before vaulting over him and landing at the top of the gates. That fat ass will die for what he did to me all those years ago, he said as he jumped forward, landing on a house. Jiraiya looked back and started to follow, but he was stopped by a sudden rope of spider webs. The webs quickly hardened to a golden color. He turned back and saw it coming out of the other coffin. He started trying to fight it, but it was strong. Kabuto smirked some more, but stopped as Jiraiya broke it and ran at the coffin. Damn it, Jiraiya, Kabuto shouted. Just die. Kabuto threw two kunai at him, but Jiraiya twisted to dodge both and punched the coffin. It cracked under the huge pressure before it just shattered, destroying whoever was inside. Kabuto gritted his teeth at the sight and jumped down behind him. He turned back slightly and began more hand seals. Jiraiya got ready, but Kabuto just melted into mud. Damn coward, Jiraiya muttered, dropping to one knee. That punch took a lot out of him. He panted hard as he heard explosions from the north and east gate. Damn. I can't help, I guess. Oh, well. Jiraiya slid back into a tree and began to rest as the Auto Nin were wiped out and the remaining Kumo Nin headed into the village again. The north gate. Choji stood there, batting away several Auto Nin with his hand that had grown largely in size from his unique Akamichi jutsus. He continued to bat them away before he felt a huge chakra source behind him and then he felt a tremendous pain as he was punched in the back. He was sent flying into a tree, but he slowly got up and eyed his new opponent, gasping in shock at who it was. Been a long time, fatty, Hirobu smirked. Now, how are you standing when that punch should have broken your back? He then noticed the spear strapped to Choji's back. Ah, a new weapon. Fatty? You're one to talk, Hirobu, Choji replied back. Now, how are you alive? I killed you. Hirobu laughed at Choji's cluelessness. Edo Tensai, Hirobu answered. Kabuto brought me back. That white-haired traitor. Choji muttered in response. Fine, I'll just kill you again. No you won't, Hirobu replied. I have been trained harder this time and Orochimaru's lackeys should all be dead, a voice came from behind. Fat asses like you should stay in your grave and leave the true Auto Nin to their work. Hirobu was slashed in half and his body fell. Choji gasped again as he saw who it was. None other than Uchiha Sasuke, the Otokage. The East Gate. The Konoha Nin charged forward as the Kumo Nin seemed to disperse in an attempt to take them down quickly. Raiden jutsus were flying at the Konoha Nin from all directions. Gatsuga and Inuzuka shouted, flying at the Kumo Nin in a swirl of claws and fangs. The Inuzuka plowed through 5 Kumo Nin, but was hit by a lightning bolt, sending him into a building. The ninja waged against each other until a couple quick taijutsu attacks sent groups of them falling back. Inuzuka Kiba looked on at this. His fellow Inuzuka were fighting and that one seemed to be a student of his friend from Guy's old team. Inuzuka, a voice said from behind. You better not intend to sit here and watch us fight. He turned back to see a pink-haired Kunoichi glaring at him. Don't be like that, Sakura, Kiba replied. You know my name. You are to call me Hokage-sama, mutt. Now, get rid of these Kumo Nin. Maybe they would be gone if you'd stop bitching to me and fought. Do you know what I could do to you, Inuzuka? You could be locked up for disrespect. Maybe it's time I stop being part of this village then. Is that a threat? Sakura glared at Kiba. He took off his Hite 8 and made a hand seal. It was shredded in seconds. More than a threat, you bitch, Kiba replied, glaring back. Kiba jumped off, heading in the opposite direction of Kumo. Sakura glared after him and followed. Shino and Kakashi joined her soon. This won't take long, Sakura said. Kakashi, lead the rest of this assault until I return. Shino, do your best to assist. The two nodded and backed off. The North Gate. Choji was faced with Uchiha Sasuke. He held up his spear in a defense while Sasuke held his katana in a loose grip. Ah, Choji. Sasuke muttered with a sick grin. Kusanagi is just dying for your blood. He appeared behind Choji, but the blade was blocked. They looked over to see Jin standing there, his own katana out. He made a hand seal and several clones appeared around Sasuke. Otokage, your rule ends today, Jin said. He disappeared with his clones toward the center of the city. Sasuke looked at Choji and then into the city. You've been saved today, fat ass, Sasuke said. No one disrespects me like this. He disappeared himself, heading towards the center of town. Just outside the East Gate, Sakura appeared over Kiba and tried to plow her fist down on him. Kiba dove out of the way, but the tremor set him off balance. She pulled out a kunai and threw it, but it was blocked by a shot of lightning. Shinto stood at the edge of the forest. Go, Inuzuka, Shinto said. This bitch is mine. Shinto ran at her. Sakura came at him as well, but he disappeared and kept running behind her. Sakura glared after him and then gave chase. Kiba took his chance and ran into the forest. The North Gate. Choji continued taking on Auto Nin with his spear, but they were being overwhelmed. This must be the brunt of the Otokagure army. He continued fighting on, despite the almost sure defeat they faced. He stabbed one, but suddenly saw a stream of sand start entering the battlefield. Suddenly, a group of 5 Auto Nin just stopped moving as a shadow connected with them. Shikamaru stood at the end. We're here to help now, Shikamaru said. Gaara is to meet the cages to fight while we assist here. Shikamaru made more hand seals and his shadow whipped out, stabbing through several ninja. Choji continued to fight on with his best friend at his side. A wind swept in and puppets began to attack the Auto Nin. The fight was beginning to look up. The East Gate. The Kumo Nin fought the Konoha Nin valiantly, but they were being overwhelmed. It was similar to the North Gate. They fought with everything they had, but they had several casualties already. They continued to fight until a thick mist began to set in. Suddenly, several ninja felt their chakra get blocked off and fall to the ground. Several were slashed up with a giant red scythe. This seems to be a good place to stop, Kagai shouted to the ninja. Kagai, member of Bolt, will show you how pitiful your village is. The ninja began to fight the Konoha Nin back a bit more with the extra support. Another ninja jumped into the fray, but it was only in a blur as he went back into the forest at the other side. The center of the village. Shinto and Jin met at the center of the village with Sasuke and Sakura right behind them. The two took guard around the statue of their Yondaime Reikage. The two stood in a crossroad. To the north, Uchiha Sasuke walked towards them slowly. To the east, Haruno Sakura walked towards them as well. The two readied their blades, fully knowing they couldn't possibly win. The two cages smirked, but a sudden swirl of sand caught their attention. In front of the two, the case cage, Sabaku no Gaara, stood. You won't touch them, Gaara said simply. One cage against two, Sasuke said with a smirk. Who will win? Sasuke placed his hand over his hilt and got ready in a stance. Sakura slipped on her black gloves and got ready as well. The three stared at each other for a bit before the two cages charged at Gaara. Gaara's sand swirled up and shoved them to the side so they couldn't attack from both sides now. The two got up again and made several hand seals together. Gaara, you have to know you stand no chance, Sakura said. You're alone against two cages. Shinto and Jin stepped back a bit. You two go, Gaara said. You'll get in my way if you're not at cage level. The two nodded and took off for the gates again. You can't win, and you know it, Sand Freak, Sasuke continued as he stepped forward, Kusanagi in hand. Gaara got ready, raising his hands and, in turn, his sand. Suddenly a wind picked up, making it hard for Sakura and Sasuke to stand. Then let's make it a little even, a voice shouted from the rooftops. They all looked up to see a blonde-haired man standing there in a dark orange ninja outfit. The three all knew who this was. Been a while. Team 7 is finally together again. Could have been more pleasant circumstance, but it can't be helped. He flipped off, landing behind the two united cages. Gaara, let me handle them. I need to settle the score with these two. Uzumaki Naruto had arrived. Naruto stood in front of Sasuke and Sakura. The three just looked at each other. Sasuke began to laugh at the irony of it all. Team 7's reunion after so many years, Sasuke began. Now we're enemies. As Orochimaru would call us, the Neo Sannin. Trained by the originals, Jiraiya, Orochimaru, and Tsunade. Now they're all dead and we continue their fight. This is the last generation. There will only be one side of Sannin after this. Fine by me, Naruto replied with a smirk. He shifted his stance. I'll just have to show you that I'm different from the blonde brat you beat every time you faced off against Konoha. You have no right to associate yourself with Konoha anymore, Uzumaki, Sakura said, coldly. You are a banished ninja. A demon made possible by the Yondaime. Naruto just laughed dryly at that. It's kind of ironic, Naruto replied. The Yondaime Hokage made me this. Yet, it's the same power that gave me the strength to survive and become the Yondaime Raikage. This must be a sign. Maybe he wanted me to become Kage. What Hokage would ever take an interest in a pitiful dobe like you? Sasuke said. It seems Sarutobi thought I was worth his time, Naruto said. And so did Tsunade. Your mentor, if I remember correctly, Sakura. Don't even say her name, demon, Sakura replied, angrily. You're the reason she died. You could have helped her with that damn demon, but you just tried to hurt Sasuke-kun. Naruto laughed again. So little you care about your sensei, Naruto said. Sarutobi and Tsunade acknowledged me over the villagers as cages. Don't even mention her, you son of a bitch. Sakura shouted, charging forward, finally. Naruto watched as she jumped into the air and he saw Sasuke running at him. Sasuke reared back for a punch, but as he went forward, Naruto tapped his hand to the left so he passed by and then hit him in the back. Sakura came down, her fist already cocked back, but Naruto just lifted his hand and stopped her with one finger. He spun back and backhanded her with his fist, sending her flying to Sasuke's feet. The dobe's gotten better, Sasuke acknowledged. Couldn't have made Kage if I hadn't, Teme, Naruto replied. Sasuke ran at him and went for a sweep kick, but Naruto flipped over and, as he landed on his one hand, he bent his back to plant his foot in Sasuke's face, sending him tumbling back. Naruto went back to a standing position and cracked his knuckles. Now, why don't you two take off those weights, Naruto said. Sasuke and Sakura seemed shocked, but then took off their wrist and ankle bands. They made small craters in the ground as they dropped, reminding Naruto of when Rock Lee had fought Gaara in the Chunin exams. More perceptive too, Sakura said. She cracked her knuckles and punched the ground, sending cracks towards Naruto, but they didn't get big enough to do much. You've gotten weaker, Sakura, Naruto grinned wider. Sasuke made a hand seal. Look underneath the dobe, Sasuke replied, inhaling deeply. Kaden. Ryuka no Jutsu. Fire release. Dragon Fire Jutsu. Sasuke shot his stream into the cracks, making them explode as they traveled toward the young Raikage. Naruto jumped up with a flip and threw 2 kunai. The 2 landed inside the cracks and they exploded, causing the cracks to cause a chain reaction, blowing everything up around them. I already did, Naruto answered before landing behind where Sasuke and Sakura were supposed to be standing. The 2 stood there with sort of barrier around them. Sakura had made a hand seal and activated another jutsu. Dobi. Sasuke smirked again. You want defeat Konoha or Otto? This puny village can't stand against us when we're combined. Sand suddenly wrapped around his ankles, working its way up Sasuke's body. Suna's here too, Gaara said in his monotone voice. But Suna should NT mess in our business, Sasuke said from behind as the body melted into mud. You should just, Gaara, stay out of it. Naruto cut Sasuke off. I want to settle this myself. Naruto stepped forward, but Sasuke just disappeared from view. He punched Naruto square in the face, but didn't expect Naruto to backhand him in the face with his fist. Sasuke stumbled back and Naruto reared back with another punch. He let it go, but Sasuke grabbed his wrist and let it pass. Then Sasuke went with his own punch, but Naruto brought his other hand in the way and used it as leverage to flip himself over and end up behind him. You've gotten better, Dobi, Sasuke remarked as he spun back and tried to kick, but was caught by Naruto's arm. Naruto slid himself forward and pulled Sasuke up into the air. After that, he let go so he'd go higher and then he spun back to roundhouse kick him in the back, sending him higher. Naruto made a single hand seal he was famous for and smirked as another Naruto appeared above Sasuke. That Naruto made a haymaker at Sasuke's stomach, sending him plummeting at the ground, but was met with a roundhouse kick to the face. I've gotten a lot better, bastard, Naruto replied. Or should I call you Sasuke? Naruto smirked widely at the insult and Sasuke looked back with a sharp glare. Don't call my Sasuke-kun gay, Sakura shouted from behind. He turned back to see her jumping at him with her fist cocked back. Ah, right, the cover-up. Naruto smirked more as he slid his head to the side, dodging the punch and roundhouse kicked her in the back. The 2 stumbled to their feet before shooting glares at Naruto. Naruto only smiled at his 2 former teammates. Sasuke lunged forward with his fist cocked back and went in. Naruto slid his right foot back so Sasuke passed by him and he roundhouse kicked him in the back. Sakura slammed her fist into the ground, sending a giant tremor at Naruto, but Naruto jumped into the air and backflipped out of the way. Sasuke was already at him, throwing another punch, but Naruto ducked and uppercutted him. Naruto then went into a kick, kicking Sasuke in the gut. Sasuke flipped back and made a hand seal. Kan Bunshin no Jutsu, Fire Clone Jutsu. Sasuke shouted. A flame shot out of Sasuke's mouth and they split into 2 more Sasukes. Naruto made a hand seal. Mizu Kasui, Water Spike. Naruto shouted. 2 spikes made of water shot out at the 2 Sasuke clones. They jumped into the air, but Naruto changed the last hand seal. Mizu Bakuhatsu, Water Explosion. The 2 spikes exploded, the water hitting the 2 clones that had dodged. The clones began to sizzle as the flaming clones disappeared. Sasuke landed next to Sakura again and got ready. His Sharingan finally flashed into existence for a second, but it faded back to his black eyes. I won't even use the Sharingan on a Dobi like you, Sasuke said. He made a single hand seal and extended his arms. Sene Jashu, Hidden Snake Hands. Snakes shot from Sasuke's arms under his sleeves at Naruto. Naruto made a quick hand seal and slammed his hand into the ground. Gamma no Tate, Toad Shield. Naruto shouted as a shield shot up. The shield blocked the snakes and then he placed his hands on the shield. It shot forward, almost hitting Sasuke and Sakura. When Sakura looked up again, Naruto was in front of her and kicked her in the face. Sasuke was already coming behind him, but he ducked under a fist and flipped him towards Sakura as well. Sasuke is getting weaker in his age, Naruto grinned. Sakura. You're the worst of all these ninja who have hated me. Naruto walked forward as Sasuke began to get in front of her in her defense. Stay away from her, Naruto. Sasuke shouted as he threw another punch at Naruto. Naruto grabbed his wrist and kneed him in the gut before tossing him off behind him. He reached Sakura and grabbed her by the hem of her shirt, pulling her up to look at him in the eye. I gave you everything I could, Naruto began. My love. My respect. My pride. I gave you everything and you only saw me as a friend and this heartless bastard as your lover. Then after all of this, you treat me like a demon like the rest. You should die, you fucking slut. Naruto brought his fist into her gut and then tossed her to the side with Sasuke. Sakura was unconscious before she hit the ground. You, jackass. Sasuke muttered, getting up. Naruto got into his stance, but his eyes widened as he heard a voice. Kit, let me take over. Naruto grabbed his head in pain as he heard the Kyuubi trying to break free. Let me out, Kit. You can't win against this bastard. Shut the hell up, Naruto shouted to the sky. Sasuke smirked as it was his chance. He ran forward at lightning speed and planted a fist to Naruto's cheek, sending him flying into a wall. Naruto got out, staggering a bit in pain. He still held his hand as Sasuke came at him again. Naruto blocked the first punch by pushing it to the side and then raised his arm to nudge the second punch off. A sharp pain went through his head again and he winced. The opening was just enough for Sasuke to land a hard punch to his stomach. Naruto fell to his knee as Sasuke grabbed Naruto by the hair and pulled him up. He looked him in the eye. Once Adobe, always Adobe, Sasuke said as he punched Naruto in the face again. Naruto fell back into the house and just laid there. God damn it, Kit. Don't fall unconscious. Release your seal. Let me out so I can make this bastard and his whore pay. Naruto tuned out the demon as he rose to his feet slowly. Sasuke already saw it and was inside the building. He went for a punch that Naruto tried to block, with such bad coordination he could have been fooled as a drunken man rather than a cage. Sasuke stopped the punch and jumped up, landing on the wall and launching himself off again. Sasuke spun himself to kick Naruto in the face, but he grabbed his arm and threw him into the side of a stairwell, smashing him out of the house again. This is the Great Raikage. Sasuke laughed. Give me a challenge. He began to shoot forward with amazing speed, but sand suddenly shot up to stop him. Then face the cage, Gaara said from behind. Sasuke turned to see Gaara standing there. Sasuke laughed more before disappearing and appearing in front of him. He threw a punch that the sand blocked and then a kick that was also blocked. Gaara jumped back and let the sand begin to rise. He shot it at Sasuke in small pieces in the shape of spikes. Sasuke dodged these with grace, but was nicked in the leg. The freak finally fights. Sasuke shouted as he disappeared. Adn appeared behind Gaara. He kicked him hard in the back, sending him into the wall. That's all you've got? Gaara asked. Sasuke's eyes widened as the Gaara he kicked melted into sand. Sand shot up all around him and began to cover his body. Sasuke shouted in anger, but Gaara held on tightly. Finally Sasuke made a hand seal with his free hand and glared at the Shukaku container. Hyango, fire covering, Sasuke shouted. His body burst into flames as a sort of armor came over him. The sand around him began to harden under the tremendous heat until it was just glass. Sasuke broke out of it and smirked at the surprised cage. Now, let's see what you can do. Naruto. Naruto stood in a dark chamber. 4 statues of men stood around a giant black cage where a demonic red chakra came from. A giant fox began to show as it rose from its slumber to eye the boy. You will let me out? Don't think so, Naruto replied to the giant fox. You'll give me your chakra. If you want me to live, of course. Naruto smirked. I die, you die. Stupid Kit. I'll break my way out if you don't let me go. Kyuubi, you can't break out, Naruto replied, sternly. The fox roared and charged at the gate, but the 4 men shined brightly for a second and there was a howl of pain from the fox. The fox slumped down on the ground before glaring at the boy. Out of my domain, boy. Make me, fox. With a mighty roar, Kyuubi shot Naruto through a door and he instantly snapped up, wide awake. He felt pain all over, but it was lessened due to his healing effect. He rose to his feet and began stumbling his way out of the building. Gaara and Sasuke. Gaara began making his sand go out in spikes, but Sasuke kept back flipping out of the way. Suddenly, Sasuke froze and his chest was hit with the sand. What the hell? Sasuke muttered in pain. He glanced back and saw Shikamaru standing there with a single hand seal up. Take care of him, Gaara, Shikamaru said. Gaara began to make his sand rise around him, but he felt a hand on his shoulder. He glanced back to see Naruto, looking right at Sasuke. He nudged him a bit out of the way and went on. Shikamaru, let him go, Naruto ordered. I order it as your cage. Shikamaru was reluctant, but did so. It's between Team 7, let me handle it. Sasuke just made a hand seal and a tremendous wind took up, shoving Naruto back into the building. Sasuke jumped up to the rooftops and began more hand seals. The building began to collapse as his snake was shoved into it by a giant toad from the West Gate battle. Sasuke jumped off with a flip and finished his hand seals, slamming his fist into the ground. Edo Tensei, Sasuke shouted. 2 coffins shot up from the ground. Naruto ran forward, out of the debris, Rasengan in hand. He ran with blinding speed at his former teammate and friend. Gaara saw what was happening and covered the second coffin that wasn't in Naruto's path with his sand. Naruto couldn't maneuver with the speed he had picked up and slammed the Rasengan into the coffin in front of Sasuke. The door over the coffin began to peel off and splinter from the pressure. Naruto pressed the attack with more chakra and the entire door shattered as he plunged into the revived body. He looked up to look into the eyes of someone he never thought he'd seen again. The Godem Hokage, his Obachan, Tsunade. Naruto's eyes widened as he carved into her stomach with ferocity of the Rasengan at his disposal. Tsunade's entire coffin splintered and shattered, as did her body. Sasuke smirked. Guess I should have made her more stable, Sasuke said. Naruto just looked at him with a sharp glare that would even make the Akatsuki members piss their pants in utter terror. This was the glare of a demon, but one thing was wrong with it. It didn't have the demonic red eyes of the Kyuubi. It was still Naruto's sunny blue eyes. Naruto just looked at Sasuke with this glare and Sasuke continued to smirk in triumph. You've done it, now, bastard. Naruto shouted, charging forward. Sasuke blocked the first punch, but he felt his arm starting to give out under the attack. He couldn't block the second blow to his stomach from his shock. Naruto then kicked him in the side and elbowed him in the face. He spun back around and punched him hard in the chest. He grabbed him by the shoulders and kneed him in the stomach again. You're still the stupid rash dobi from our Genin days. Sasuke shouted, throwing a punch. Naruto just grabbed his fist. Sasuke looked at Naruto who didn't move an inch after that. Sasuke felt tremendous pressure on his fist and looked as Naruto was bending it back and tightening his fist. Sasuke's fist was beginning to crack. He could hear the bones breaking before Naruto kicked him in the stomach with all the force he could muster. He didn't let Sasuke go though. He held on to his fist. Naruto planted another punch to Sasuke's face. Then he kneed him in the stomach and spun around to roundhouse kick him, letting go of the fist. Sasuke flew back and hit a tree, splintering it from the force. Naruto disappeared and appeared above Sasuke, landing a dropkick on him. Sasuke coughed up blood as he lay there. Shikamaru and Gaara could only look on in shock as Naruto took on demon-like traits without the Kyuubi's influence. They continued to watch as he jumped up from the dropkick and punched Sasuke in the stomach, causing him to cough up more blood. Naruto spun on his fist to plant another kick on Sasuke's chest. Then he backflipped. Bastard, get up! Naruto shouted in rage. I want to watch the horror in your eyes as I kill you. Sasuke rose to his feet slowly and got into a stance. Then they heard clapping above them. They both looked to the rooftops to see a man standing in a black cloak with red clouds on it. He wore a straw hat that covered his face, but they could see his hands with purple nail polish on. You! Sasuke glared up in rage now. You're from the Akatsuki, Naruto continued before Sasuke could go. Here for Kyuubi? You picked a damn bad time. Sasuke had already grabbed his wrist as they heard crackling. Bastard, I still want to kill you. Take this guy down so I can get it over with. Sasuke smirked at him as he continued to charge it. Naruto began making the Rasengan appear as the man let his straw hat fall of his head from the wind that blew through the field. Brother, Kyuubi, the man said. He had long black hair and his eyes were blood red. He looked at the two, uncaringly. I've been sent to capture you, Kyuubi. It's Naruto, Itachi. Naruto shouted. He jumped up to land on the corner of the roof behind him and Sasuke jumped up to go to the one parallel of him. The two then launched at him. Rasengan, Chidori, Sasuke shouted in response. The two almost hit, but Itachi raised his hands and grabbed their wrists. Rage makes you careless, Itachi replied. letting them continue forward and smash into the ground. Itachi jumped down from his perch and looked at the two, getting up to glare at him. "I won't let you get away, murderer," Sasuke shouted, running forward. "You are of no concern, brother," Itachi replied. As Sasuke drew near, Itachi grabbed him by the collar and held him up. Sasuke went up to kick him, but Itachi brought his head back and threw Sasuke into a wall. "You two could be a threat, but you are too filled with rage to even lift those seals," Itachi continued. Itachi suddenly froze as his head tilted back on its own, revealing Shikamaru. "You won't get away with harming the Raikage-sama," Shikamaru said. "This is of no concern to you, Nara," Itachi replied, stepping forward as if he were not captured and forcing Shikamaru forward as well. Suddenly, sand shot up in front of him, but Itachi just chopped it away to see Gaara there. "You are a threat to all of us," Gaara said. Itachi sighed as he made a couple hand seals. "Itachi!" A voice shouted from above before he could continue. They looked up to see a man in similar attire with his hat off. He looked like a fishman and had blue hair with black eyes. "Leader Sama has requested us." Itachi looked back at his battle. "You're lucky for today," he said as the two made hand seals and disappeared. Naruto rose to his feet, but Sasuke was already being helped up by Kabuto and Sakura by Shino. "We'll meet again, Kumo," Shino said with scorn in his voice. "Yes, Naruto-kun," Kabuto smirked as the two of them disappeared with their cages. From all around town, they could hear shouts. "We won. Konoha and Otto are pulling back. No one can stand against us again." Naruto grinned at all of this. "Guess we'll meet again, bastard." Then he fell back and passed out. Naruto lay in a bed in the Kumokagore hospital. He didn't suffer any serious damage. He'd be out within a day with his remarkable healing. He lay there with Gaara looking after him. A couple minutes passed by, neither saying a word, before Gaara spoke. "The Mizukage is here," Gaara said in his monotone voice. His sand slid back in through the door where he had been keeping his watch. The door slid open to reveal Kagai. "Raikage-sama," Kagai bowed. "The Mizukage-sama is here. He would like to see you." Naruto nodded and Kagai stepped out of the way for a man to step inside. He wore the Mizukage robes and the hat covered his face. "Ah, Naruto-kun," the Mizukage said in a very familiar voice. A voice Naruto hadn't heard since his genin days. Naruto raised an eyebrow at hearing the voice. "Hinata-chan came and found Kirakagore. I agreed to help after hearing who the Raikage-sama was. I, of course, owe your old genin team my life." "You," Naruto began. "Kakashi killed you." "Ah. But the dead don't have to stay dead, Naruto-kun," the Mizukage said, walking across the room to the window. "I remember everything. I still have the scar over my chest. From where the Chidori entered." "Haku," Naruto said. "Yes, Naruto-kun?" the Mizukage asked with a grin, tilting his head to the side to view him and taking off his Mizukage hat. He had the same silky black hair and it went down to his shoulders. He looked less than a girl now. There was a scar over his right cheek and another that went from the bottom of his neck to the corner of his left eye. "How did you live?" Naruto asked. "I watched you die. To protect Zabuza." "Ah, right. You see, Inari-kun took my body and Zabuza's body," Haku began. "Several years ago, the great Uzumaki Bridge was scattered with bodies. Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke, and Kakashi had left the village, but Inari stood there, looking at the bodies. A bunch of Gatu's men, along with Gatu himself and his killer. And the killer's friend. Inari walked out before a girl appeared next to him. He looked over and smiled. "Umi-san, you've returned again," Inari said. Umi nodded, looking over the bridge. "Looks like you might need some help," Umi said. She jumped off the edge of the bridge and looked at Gatu's dead body next to Zabuza. She lifted Zabuza up on one shoulder and shoved Gatu the rest of the way with her foot so he plummeted into the sea. "Good riddance, bastard." She trudged over to Inari who had lifted up Haku onto his shoulder. The two slowly began making their way back to the villages, the two missing nins on their shoulders. "We better bury them. They were as valuable in this as Team 7, Inari said. The two continued on until they reached the center. They saw a woman walking towards the eastern side of town, another woman by her side. The first was very busty and had long blonde hair while the other had shorter black hair and followed the first obediently. Umi's eyes snapped open, realizing who it was. Tsunade-sama, Umi shouted, remembering the face in a book. Tsunade turned her head slightly and frowned as she made her way towards them. Did you kill those two? Tsunade asked. No, we were going to ask if there was a jutsu to revive them, Umi replied. Inari gaped at the idea, but Umi just shot him a meaningful glance. Of course there isn't, Tsunade replied. Don't waste my tea. The forbidden jutsu you created, Umi interrupted. The blood of a human in exchange for a life. A very barbaric, but effective reviving jutsu. Tsunade frowned more at that. I want help, Tsunade said. Last time I used that jutsu, I killed a man. I won't do that again. Who said the blood had to be living? Umi asked, dropping Zabuza's body. Revive Haku with Zabuza's blood. I still want help, Tsunade replied. Shizune, let's go. Shizune turned obediently and the two walked off. Umi appeared in front of the two. Help, Umi ordered. Tsunade shot a glare at her now. You can't force us, Tsunade said. I am a Sanin. I could kill you with my one finger. She held up a finger. Prove it, Umi replied. Tsunade flicked at Umi, but Umi flipped into the air and landed gracefully on the finger with the fluid motions of water. She then flipped up over Tsunade's head. Just help us. One person lives if you can do this. Or can't you? Fine, but you are to leave me alone afterwards, Tsunade replied. Tsunade walked to the two bodies. She pulled out a small incision knife and cut into Zabuza's neck. She took some blood and smeared it over Haku's wound. She then made a couple hand seals and the blood began to react with Haku's wound. The wound sealed up, leaving a decent-sized scar and Haku's body began to gain color again. You did it, Inari muttered in astonishment. Tsunade sighed and got to her feet. Now, you two leave me alone. Tsunade walked off, but Inari called after her. Tsunade-sama, he shouted. I have one last request for you. Can you take Haku's body away from here? He doesn't know what side effects this jutsu may have or where to go from here. Just get him started, please? Tsunade was about to refuse, but suddenly saw a flash of her younger brother in the small boy. Without a word, Tsunade grabbed Haku and hoisted the female-like boy over her shoulder before moving on out of the village. Present time. Haku sat in a chair at this point. He had been telling of how he was revived again, and Naruto was generally surprised that it was Tsunade-ban. So, I can only last about 30 to 45 minutes without dying. After that, my heart becomes erratic and I'll die of a severe heart attack, Haku informed Naruto. My son should be around here. Son? Naruto asked, surprised again. Yes, I got dropped off at Kirikagore and met a girl named Rei, Haku said. We had a child. Shin. Momoichi Shin. Your last name is Momoichi? Naruto asked. Technically not, but Zabuza-sama practically raised me, Haku said. It's only fitting that I have his last name and continue his legacy. Haku thought back to when they had arrived at Kirikagore. As messed up as it was when he left it. Kirikagore, a couple years after Haku's revival. Haku, Tsunade began. I'm dropping you off here. I only kept you with me until you can handle your own. You have several healing techniques and quite a few regular ones. You should be fine now. Haku nodded, walking into the village. Thank you for everything, Tsunade-sensei. Haku nodded and walked off. Tsunade and Shizune turned back and ran off as well. They wouldn't hang around long enough for more people to ask them favors. Haku continued into the village before he saw a man walking towards him. He wore the robes and hat of a kage and walked with authority, holding a cane in his left hand. Haku continued down, but the man stopped him with one hand. You, who are you? The man asked. Haku, was the reply. The man backhand slapped him. You will answer with Mizukage-sama, the Mizukage ordered. Haku, Mizukage-sama. Haku rubbed his cheek while giving a sharp glare to the man. I saw that, you wretched urchin, the Mizukage said in a sinister voice. He brought his cane up and smacked the boy in the shoulder, sending him to the ground. The man then kicked Haku in the stomach before he can get up. Next time, remember your respect, boy, the Mizukage said. Or you might find yourself in a worse predicament than this. As the Mizukage stalked off, Haku rose to his feet. I've been to hell and back, you bastard. Haku muttered. An old man walked up besides him and frowned deeply. You should mess with Issen, the man said. Issen is a strong cage, if a horrible person. You won't get anywhere talking to him and he will most likely beat you for looking at him the wrong way. Then it seems time for a new cage. Haku muttered. A couple weeks later, the Mizukage stalked down the street, looking for new prey. Haku stood on a pole at the end of that street, waiting. As soon as the Mizukage was within range, Haku laughed. The Mizukage looked up and glared at the boy. "Issen," Haku shouted. "I could defeat you and take the title of Mizukage." Issen disappeared and appeared behind him. "Are you sure about that?" Issen asked. Haku held up a tag that had a kanji that read, "Trigger," on it. His hand glowed blue with chakra as the seal activated and Issen's feet were trapped. A sudden explosion came from behind, and then from both sides. Haku slapped the last one on his chest and jumped away, watching the fourth explosion. "Issen, come out and face me," Haku shouted, flipping back and landing on another rooftop. The houses were small and they would cause much damage, but this was his plan. Draw him out and cause as little damage as possible. Issen shot out of the smoke, glaring daggers at Haku. Haku backflipped as Issen smashed his fist into the roof, causing a decent-sized hole. Haku turned and ran. He jumped to the next rooftop and then again, flying through the window of a bigger building. Issen followed after him. He jumped at the taller building and punched his way through the side of the wall. He landed on a support beam and watched as Haku walked along a catwalk at the top. Haku glanced back with a grin. "Ah, you're here," Haku said. Now, several of Kiri's Aqua, their version of Anbu, showed up around the windows. "Attack!" Issen shouted. They all stood motionless. "I said attack, you worthless drones. It's about time we get a new Mizukage, Captain?" one asked. The captain nodded his head before the 5 Aqua that had gathered jumped out. Haku took one last step on the catwalk before it began to glow a bright orange. "Time to die, Issen," Haku shouted. Several more seals around the building began to glow bright orange. Haku flipped out the window and the entire building exploded in a magnificent orange explosion. A giant face seemed to appear at the top of the explosion and Haku could hear Issen's deformed scream from the building. The captain of the Aqua team appeared next to Haku. "You are the new Mizukage-sama. I am Goken. Pleasure to serve you, sir." Haku grinned as he looked over the village. "Get started on getting this village out of poverty," Haku ordered. Present time. Naruto nodded as Haku finished his story. He began thinking of the village. The old Kirikage. The villagers were treated like crap. It was what he always wanted in Konoha. Become Hokage and give the villagers what they always gave him. But this was just wrong. "Haku," Naruto began, "you came to help us against Konoha and Otto. Thank you." Naruto got out of his bed and slammed his fist into his open palm. "I'm glad that village banished me. I would have ended up just like that Mizukage. Now I can show them what they did when they banished me." Haku made a small smile and Gaara went as close of a smile as he could get. "Naruto, I owe you a lot since those Chunin exams," Gaara said. "I'll be by you until the end." "Same goes for me," Haku said. "I won't let one of my precious people die again." Haku grimaced at the thought of Zabuza and then became serious. "Gaara-san, we should work together now. I know of a clan in the middle of Otto." "The Fuma clan?" Naruto spoke up. "I met them during one of my missions. Tell Fuma Sasama who the Raikage is and that you're allies with him. She'll help with info on Otto." Naruto began feeling weak then and started to lean against the wall. "Alright," Haku nodded. "I'll send an Aqua team out to this small island off our coast. There should be a clan there. Gaara-san, send a group of your shinobi." "Sand, was it? Send them out to the clan in Otto." "Alright," Gaara nodded. Tamari, Kankoru. The 2 Suna nin walked into the room at that point. "Get the ninja ready. We leave in an hour." The 2 nodded and poofed away. "I have something else to take care of," Naruto said as he opened his window and looked out. "You 2 get to work on that. I'll see you later." Naruto flipped out of the window, but was instantly poofed back in by Kagai. She dropped him in the bed and shot him a glare. "Raikage-sama, you must stay in bed until you're healed," she said. Naruto sighed and Haku chuckled lightly. "I'll see you around, Naruto," Gaara said. Naruto nodded as the 2 left. He slumped back in bed and crossed his arms in impatience as he looked at Kagai. "You won't be allowed to leave again until you are healed," Kagai said, taking a seat in a chair near his bed. Naruto sighed again as he closed his eyes in thought. Naruto sat on the rooftop of the hospital he had been in. There was nothing going on anymore except the reconstruction of Kumo. They hadn't taken much damage due to the quick offense from Kumo, Suna, and Kiri. Naruto watched in awe as the buildings were being reconstructed. After seeing damages Konoha had taken, it's amazing how little they could take. Surprised? Shikamaru asked from behind. Of course. Did you see how much damage Konoha took from Otto? Naruto said. We took so little, and against Otto and Konoha. Shikamaru sat down beside him. It is a surprise, Shikamaru replied. But this just shows what a great Kage you are. Hinata, Kagai, you, and I were all gone. We still came up with this. It was because of Jiraiya, Choji, Shinto, and Jin, Naruto replied. Their hard work and fast action stopped them from getting in. True, but you shouldn't be so modest about yourself, Naruto, Shikamaru said. You make twice the Kage either Sakura or Sasuke make. Naruto smiled and placed a hand on Shikamaru's shoulder. Means a lot to me, Shikamaru, Naruto said. Ah, isn't this cute? A voice came from behind. 3 blades pierced through the 2 shinobi, but they poofed away. Who are you? Naruto asked, placing a kunai on the back of the man who had used the strange scythe. He wore a black cloak with red clouds on it and Naruto's eyes widened in response. You're from the Akatsuki? Naruto asked. Seems you know of us, Kyuubi boy, the man said. You, Shikamaru muttered as he stared at him and his taller partner that remained quiet during this. I know you too, Sanakagore. Gaara stood atop the cage tower. He had been looking out across Suna, watching his people work effortlessly. They had become much better since he had taken over. His father's rule was abolished, as well as the prejudice against him for the Shukaku. Kage-Sama, a shinobi appeared behind him. Gaara tilted his head back in recognition. We wanted to let you know that there was 2 men. They wore black cloaks with red clouds. They're coming from the south. Seems like the Akatsuki. Yes, seems like it, Gaara replied. Of course. How would you know this? The man scowled. A scout told me, the man said. Gaara turned fully around and his sand rose up behind him, revealing a shinobi in the black cloak with red clouds. It poofed away, but the sand instantly flew at the shinobi. There was a large poof and the man jumped into the air. He had blonde hair that went over one of his eyes and he wore the Akatsuki cloak. This won't happen like last time, Deidara, Gaara said. His sand flew at him, but Deidara flipped back and came up, flying on a giant clay bird. The sand crashed into the ground and flew off to follow after Deidara. The sand and the clay bird flew around each other, the sand never getting near enough to capture him. Suddenly, the door slammed open beside them and Kankoru ran out. Gaara, Kankoru shouted. He ran at the 2 and got ready with his newest puppet, but a blunt object suddenly slammed into his side, sending him into the side of the doorway. No interfering, another Akatsuki member said. This one had a wooden-like face and had a puppet beside him with a blunt metal pole coming from its chest. It shot out again, only kept to the doll by a string inside of the hole in its stomach. Sasori, Kankoru shouted, jumping to the top of the doorway and letting his puppet down. I won't let you take Gaara again. Otokagore. Sasuke sat in his domain with Kabuto in front of him. Kabuto held a kunai in his hand and showed it to Sasuke. Otokage-sama, Kabuto bowed. When will we strike again? Give them some time, Sasuke replied. It's obvious we were no match. He has 3 allies. We have to strike at their heart. What would that mean? Kabuto asked. Should I send some troops to assassinate the Mizukage? Sasuke shook his head and, in an instant, threw a kunai into the wall on the far side of his chamber. You may come out now, Sasuke said, calmly. A man stepped out from around the pillar. He wore the Akatsuki cloak and had a fish-like face. Kisame. That means. Sasuke's eyes widened. Hello, brother, a voice came from behind. Konoha Kagure. Sakura sat on the top of the wall, her sensei and best friend, RyuHll stood beside her. Kakashi-sensei. Sakura whispered. How could Naruto have gotten so strong? Ino sighed as she thwacked Sakura on the head. It's Naruto, Ino replied. Of course he got stronger. Sakura glared up at her. You didn't fight him, pig, Sakura replied. If you had seen that power. He stopped my fist with 1 finger. And he even knocked me out with 1 hit. He didn't even use the fox. So, the Raikage is the Kyuubi boy, a voice came from behind. They turned back to see a boy in an Akatsuki cloak. He wore a strange mask on his face, but seemed innocent. Behind him, A man with a big Venus flight trap around his head stood. He had two halves, a black side and a light side with menacing yellow eyes. Zetsu, Ino acknowledged. And that must be Toby. Ino made a hand seal and another Ino appeared next to her. Kakashi got to his feet and got into a ready stance. Suddenly, there was a poof next to them and another man stood in a Junin outfit. He had a headpiece on that held his Hite 8 on his forehead. Yamato, Kakashi acknowledged with a nod. Ino, take the Hokage-sama and get out of here. We'll deal with these two. Ino nodded and took Sakura away by the arm. Kakashi got into a stance, followed by Yamato. I've got Zetsu, Yamato said. Then I'll take Toby, Kakashi nodded. The two looked at each other before disappearing and appearing on the roofs of different houses at two angles from the roof the two Akatsuki members stood on. Naruto and Shikamaru. The two faced their opponents. Shikamaru had a sharp glare at Hidan and Kakuzu. Naruto just looked at the two with a hard, impassive look. Get out of my village or die, Naruto said in an angry tone. No, I want these bastards dead, Shikamaru said in a deathly tone. They killed Asuma-sensei. Oh, you're that brat that was with the Genin team. Kakuzu muttered. Shikamaru glared at him and took out a cigarette. You smoke, Shikamaru? Naruto asked. Shikamaru lit it with a simple jutsu and put it to his lips. I don't, Shikamaru replied. It's just in honor of Asuma. The two got into ready stances and Kakuzu and Hidan got into their own. Hidan's scythe flew out of his hands and almost hit the two, but they flipped over it. Kakuzu launched forward and grabbed Shikamaru's throat, but was kicked in the stomach by Naruto and the two Kumo nin jumped away. It's strange to see a cage fight intruders, Kakuzu said. If you die, the whole village falls apart. Naruto just smirked in response. Then I guess I won't die, was his reply. Naruto made a hand seal and 5 more Narutos appeared next to him. 4 of the Narutos ran forward and disappeared to appear beside Kakuzu from all sides. They all launched a series of punches and kicks, but Kakuzu stood there, unflinchingly. That's it? Kakuzu asked with a raised eyebrow. Let's see if you can deal with this then. He made a hand seal. Raiden. Gion, lightning release, false darkness. From Kakuzu's body, a black lightning came out. That lightning formed into a lightning bolt and shot through the clones, heading straight at the original Naruto with fast speed. Doden. Tsuchi Hite Benkai, Earth Release. Earth Soldier Defense. A voice came from behind. A giant statue of a soldier holding 2 shields appeared before Naruto, blocking the lightning. Let me take care of these bastards, guys. The two turned and their eyes widened at who had saved them. Gaara vs Deidara. Gaara's sand flew up above his head and flew straight at Deidara. Deidara's clay bird flew at the sand and exploded upon impact. The sand dispersed, but then flew around, surrounding Deidara. This won't go like last time, Gaara said as his sand stopped before it could grab Deidara. It separated and surrounded his arms everywhere except his hands. Gaara made a hand seal. And this was made just for the occasion. Suna Bakuden, sand bomb. The sand exploded and Deidara shouted in anger and pain. The smoke enveloped the roof as Gaara got ready with another attack. His sand rose up and began to form spikes as the smoke began to envelop the rooftop. You bastard. I won't die like this, yeah, Deidara said from within the smoke. Suddenly, dozens of clay birds shot forth from the smoke, heading straight at Gaara. Kankoru vs Sasori. Kankoru took off his 3 seals and placed them on the ground with a grin. Get ready, Sasori, Karasu, Kuroari, Sanshao. 3 puppets appeared before Kankoru, but Sasori only sighed. This isn't worth my time, Sasori said. This body can deal with you. But I think I'll let my minions do it. This came especially from Konoha. He raises a single hand and called out. A Kagahare puppet ninja squad, come here. But, they were in Konoha. Kankoru muttered. You don't think the Akatsuki could sneak in to get something as useless as aged puppets? Sasori said, mockingly. He held his hand outstretched. Attack. They all shot kunai from their mouth. But Sanshao opened its giant mouth to shoot out a big web, taking the kunai back and hitting the squad at the same time. Sasori grunted and snapped his fingers. Hyaki no Suin, Sasori said. An army of 100 or so puppets shot up around Kankoru and his 3 puppets. Kankoru just smirked at this. Got you, he said as his 3 puppets jumped back in 3 different directions and he melted into sand. Kayapucha Kairaiwana, capture puppet trap. A giant puppet came down from above and the entire force of puppets were capture. This is my new puppet. Supaida Da, the capture spider. Why include spider in that name? It looks nothing like one, Sasori commented. It's for the puppets it holds within itself, Kankoru answered. Supaida Kaihao, spider release. A group of spiders were released and they dropped on the puppets, exploding on impact. When the smoke cleared, Sasori stood there, his cloak in a tattered heap at his feet. He went down on all 4 and let his big, scorpion-like tail flail around. He glared at Kankoru as his tail struck the cage that held him. I'll slaughter you, Sasori shouted. You can't break out, Kankoru said. It's infused with my chakra. Then, let's see you deal with my new puppet. A voice came from behind. Kankoru looked behind him and gasped at the sight. Sasuke. Sasuke stood there with his kusanagi in his hand, glaring at his brother, Uchiha Itachi. The 2 Mangekyo Sharingan eyes glared at each other. Sasuke made a quick hand seal. You have no right to call me your brother, Sasuke said in a dangerous tone. Kaden. Gukakyu no Jutsu, fire release, great fireball jutsu. Sasuke shot out a stream of flames. It connected and burst into a fireball. As the flames subsided, Sasuke was gone from his spot. He appeared in front of Itachi and kicked him in the chin, sending him airborne. Itachi flew into the air as Sasuke appeared behind him now. He was kicked in the side, feeling an extra bit of damage from Sasuke's foot being filled with chakra. Then he spun back and kicked his other side, grabbing his shoulder in the process. He turned him a bit and kicked him in the stomach, sending him towards the ground before punching him again, sending him faster. Sasuke finished with a drop kick as they just hit the ground. Sasuke jumped back and got into a stance. Itachi rose to his feet and turned to Sasuke to see him standing in the taijutsu stance. The achiever of the Nirvana fist? Itachi smirked, slightly. You must be joking. Let's see about that, Sasuke shouted, rushing forward. He disappeared, right in front of Itachi, and appeared behind him with a hard kick to the back. Itachi just grabbed the foot like he didn't even feel the strike and threw him into a wall. Pitiful little brother, Itachi mocked. You had to come at me with more hatred. Remember who killed your entire clan? Remember seeing your entire family killed by a single man? The one you loved to follow around killed your entire clan. Remember that moment, use that hatred. Come at me, Sasuke. I'll finish what I started all those years ago. Shut the fuck up, Sasuke shouted, dashing at Itachi at a maddening speed, Sharingan in full view now. Kabuto. Kabuto stood in front of Kisame, a chakra scalpel in hand. Kisame held his giant blade, Samahata, in a defensive stance, ready for anything from Kabuto. What the hell is wrong with you? Kisame asked with a smirk. You are so powerful as you are. Maybe not as powerful as this, but you could be one of our subordinates. Why waste your life with the Uchiha? It is what Orochimaru-sama would have wanted, Kabuto replied with an angry glare. I will honor his last wishes and see to it that Otto takes over the rest of these pitiful villages. Then this shall be your funeral, Kisame said as he charged forward. He was suddenly stopped by a pair of swords in an X form, blocking the Samahata. Who the? Kisame, a man said before him. He had long, brown hair and wearing a brown vest over his bandaged chest. He held 2 strange blades. It had a blade sprouted out from the back and then another from the front of the main blade. You're Kabuto, right? Get out of here. I'll take care of him. Ryuhll, Kisame shouted in surprise. What the hell are you doing here? I heard you died. Ever hear of the new Mizukage? Momoichi Haku? Ryuhll smirked. Turns out that the Godem Hokage trained him personally after reviving him from the dead. He put this reviving jutsu to work with the 7 swordsmen of the mist. That means, Zabuza. Kisame muttered in surprise. No, not him, Ryuhll replied. See, our Yondaime Mizukage-sama perfected the jutsu so that there was no exchange for a revival. But to revive him, they had to use Zabuza's blood. This made him unable to be revived. Ryuhll broke the clash between the 2 blades and smirked a bit. But enough of that. Let's say we see who's the stronger of the 7 swordsmen? Yamato vs Zetsu. Yamato made a hand seal and slammed his fist into the ground. On either side of him, vines rose up to form clones of Yamato. Then Yamato stood and pulled out a kunai. "Akatsuki scum," Yamato began. "I won't let you take the Hokage-sama's life." The two wooden clones ran forward as the original Yamato slammed his fist into the ground. A vine wrapped its way up Zetsu's leg and he was punched on both sides of the fly trap's mouth. It slammed shut with Zetsu's head inside, but the two only heard laughing from within. "Fool," a dark voice came from within. "Think we could die that easily?" "Perhaps he did," another voice came from within. "Let's show him what happens when they do so." "Yes, let's," the dark voice came. Yamiki, darkness tree. A black tree rose from behind the Yamato clone on the right. Teiho, capture. The dark tree's branches wrapped around the clone and strapped him to the tree. Ranpuki, light tree, the second voice came out. A giant white tree shot out of the ground before the second clone. Teiho, capture. The fly trap opened up to see the two sides of the faces. "Now," the dark side said. "Let's see if you can keep up," the light side finished. Yamato got into a stance, ready for Zetsu. Kakashi vs Toby. Kakashi charged at Toby, but Toby just sidestepped him. Kakashi turned and roundhouse kicked him in the face. Toby backed away and was hit with a quick punch to the stomach. Kakashi continued with a sweep kick, knocking him off his feet. The sweep kick was followed by a powerful drop kick, crashing Toby into the roof of the ceiling. Toby slowly rose to his feet and got ready. He was kicked in the stomach quickly and then uppercutted. He went airborne, but quickly flipped around and threw two kunai. Kakashi was already running towards him again. He dodged the kunai and jumped up to punch Toby again, but his fist was grabbed and he was kicked in the face, sending him straight off the roof. "Kakashi-san," Toby said from a crouching position at the side of the roof. "It's been so long since I've seen you. This is how you greet me?" The teenager Akatsuki member stayed on the roof, watching the Junin rise to his feet. That voice, Kakashi thought, remembering his days as a genin. Then he quickly shook his head. "No, it can't be. I have to stop thinking about him." Kakashi pulled out a kunai and twirled it in his finger in a lazy stance. "What the hell are you talking about? We've never met." "Ah, you forgot my voice, Kakashi-san?" Toby said in an innocent voice. "What would Rin say?" Kakashi's visible eye widened. "That back," Kakashi began to think, but stopped himself. "No, it's not him." Kakashi ran forward and jumped at Toby, kicking him in the side of the face. He quick turned and grabbed him by his shirt collar, bringing him close enough to knee in the gut. Toby punched Kakashi, hard, causing him to fly back into a house. He jumped down to meet him coming out of the house. "I haven't been able to take off this mask in so long," Toby said. "I wanted the first one to see my face to either be you or Rin." Toby went up and grabbed his mask. "It's been so long. I haven't seen either of you in so long. Or Arashi either." He began to take the mask off and Kakashi's eye widened again at what he saw. "You," Kakashi muttered before dropping the kunai he held. "Naruto and Shikamaru." Naruto and Shikamaru watched as Choji walked past them. He held his hands in a sort of seal before punching the stone guard away. "Which one was the immortal one, Shikamaru?" Choji asked. "The one that took sensei?" Shikamaru pointed at Hidan and Choji nodded. "Today he gets what he deserves. Hold off Kakuzu for me, will you?" "You can't," Shikamaru began. But Choji gave him a dead serious look that just made him go quiet. Choji continued forward as Naruto and Shikamaru turned to face Kakuzu. Kakuzu just sighed and turned to where Choji was. "Wait a bit," Kakuzu said. "I want to see what this guy wants. I want to see what he has to fight an immortal man like Hidan." "Troublesome," Shikamaru muttered, looking to Choji. Naruto didn't say a word, but turned to watch as well. "You kill my sensei," Choji said, approaching Hidan. Hidan just smirked. "What of it?" he asked. "He should have fought me. He wouldn't have died if he wasn't stupid enough to think he had a chance." Choji suddenly disappeared and appeared before Hidan. "Don't talk about him like that," Choji said in a low, dangerous tone. He delivered a hard punch to Hidan's stomach, sending him flying back into a railing atop the Raikage Tower. He disappeared and appeared in front of Hidan again, karate chopping his stomach. Shikamaru just blinked. Choji had never been this fast. How did he get this fast without him noticing? "You're strong." Hidan smirked. He whipped his strange three-bladed scythe up and almost slashed Choji, but he had already flipped over it. He gave Hidan a hard uppercut and then kicked him higher. Choji grabbed his leg and threw him into the railing again. He grabbed him by his shirt collar now and slammed him into a wall. He made a single hand seal and glared at Hidan. This ends now, Choji said. Akamichi Hijutsu. Raikon Shireda, Akamichi Secret Jutsu. Soul Shredder. Everything around the shinobi atop the tower went black. 3 figures appeared around Choji and Hidan in a triangle formation. Hidan screamed in pain as his soul began to be lifted out of his body. One of the figures raised their hand and the Shinigami appeared. It grinned evilly with the knife in its mouth. The Shinigami took the knife in his hand, brought it down to Hidan's body. He stabbed into his shoulder and opened his mouth wide as Hidan let out another scream. A second soul-like structure rose from Hidan's mouth, muffling the screams of pain. The 2 soul-like structures seemed to pull at each other as they were making their way to the Shinigami's mouth. Eventually, the 2 snapped from each other, splitting his soul in 2 and sending it up. The Shinigami's mouth closed and he withdrew the blade. He sliced the soul up a number of times before placing it back in its mouth. Choji smirked in triumph as Hidan's screams came to an end. He looked up at the Shinigami and found his weight had already dropped miraculously. He was very thin now. Choji stood to his feet as he continued to lose weight now. Sensei. You're avenged, Choji said as his brittle, thin body turned to dust. No weight being left to lose anymore. The darkness faded around the 3 remaining shocked shinobi. Shikamaru was the first to recover from the initial shock. Choji, Shikamaru shouted, running towards his best friend's body. Naruto turned to Hidan. I'm giving you one chance to leave, Naruto said. Your partner is dead. Shikamaru is going to want blood. I still have a village of shinobi around here. Go back to the Akatsuki. Tell them their immortal member is dead. The leader will be next if you come back. The leader? Kakuzu laughed. You killed Hidan, the immortal member. The leader is 10 times the shinobi he is. You can't beat him, even if you tried. Just go and tell him, bastard, Naruto replied, crossing his arms. Kakuzu shrugged and disappeared in a blur, taking Hidan's 3-bladed scythe with him. Shikamaru sat over Choji's body, tears streaming down his face now. He bowed his head. That bastard, Shikamaru shouted. He grabbed Choji's spear and held it up to the sky. I'll kill those bastards in the Akatsuki. God damn it, they'll all die. Shikamaru then bowed his head again to his dead friend. I swear it, he muttered to himself. Gaara vs Deidara. Gaara's sand flew around before Gaara felt a strange sensation. His arm had a strange feeling of warmth now, but, upon looking at it, he found it was just covered in clay. Deidara smirked as the clay exploded. But this explosion wasn't a dangerous one, but it was filled with sleep gas. Cage-Sama is down. Sasori-sama, Deidara called out. Kankoru vs Sasori. Ah, alright, Sasori replied with a smirk. He made a hand seal and his limbs fell apart before being brought out of the cage from chakra strains. They went into a new cloak and then they formed up into Sasori again. You bastard, Kankoru shouted. I'll see you around, Sasori replied. Just remember that the Akatsuki can do this to you. We'll be back to finish things. With that, Deidara and Sasori disappeared behind an explosion. Kankoru ran to his brother and knelt down before looking back toward where the 2 used to be. Those bastards, Kankoru muttered to himself. Sasuke vs Itachi. Sasuke plunged his Chidori at Itachi, but Itachi just stepped to the side and backhanded Sasuke with his fist. Pitiful, Itachi muttered. Brother, you aren't worth my time. Sasuke jumped at him again with his fist cocked back. He went forward, but his fist was caught by Itachi and he was kneed in the stomach. Sasuke coughed out blood and fell to his knee. Itachi continued with a knee to the face, sending Sasuke back. Otokage-sama, Kabuto shouted, appearing next to Sasuke's body. Pitiful brother, Itachi repeated. Kisame, we're going. Kisame vs Raiga. The 2 were sticking to a primarily kenjutsu fight. The 2 swordsmen fought brilliantly. Finally, Raiga landed a light slash on Kisame's leg, but this is when Itachi called out. Itachi, let me finish this, Kisame replied. We're going now, Itachi replied, flashing his Sharingan into existence. Fine, Kisame muttered. We'll finish this next time we meet. Kisame and Itachi both disappeared. Raiga sighed and turned to Kabuto and Sasuke. I helped you this time, but you are still at war with Kirikagore, Ryuga said. I'll take my leave now. Ryuga disappeared in a flash of speed. Yamato vs Zetsu. The two had fought hard. The ground was covered in tree roots and around them were black or white tree branches. Zetsu made a hand seal. Damn, Zetsu muttered. Seems I had to go. Leader Sama needs me. You got lucky this time. Let's see what happens next time. Why? Yamato began, but it was too late. Zetsu had disappeared into the ground from his tree branches, the light and dark trees disappearing as well. Kakashi vs Tobi. Obito. Kakashi shouted. His old teammate that was supposed to be dead now stood before him with a smirk on his face. Suddenly, the figure wavered and a kunai shot out, striking him in the leg. When he looked up, the orange mask was now in place. Ha! Tobi shouted in triumph. I can't believe that Genjutsu fooled you. Kakashi's eye went into a glare and he tried to get up, but a searing pain went through his leg, stopping him. Oh, well, Tobi said. I'll see you some other time, Kakashi. Seems Zetsu's been called back. I should probably go as well. Tobi disappeared in a burst of flames, leaving Kakashi speechless and angry. He wanted blood now. Not only was he made a fool of, he dared use his old teammate's form like that. He would kill that Akatsuki bastard. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.